Which kiss do you think was better? Katie and Tori or Schwartz and Tori?
Obviously, it's Katie and Tori.
Yeah, I figured that's what you would say.
What about you?
Same. All right, we're doing this again. Are you ready to get down to reality?
I'm ready. Let's get down to reality.
Welcome to Down to Reality. My name is Ro, also known on social media as Reality Ops.
And my name is Hubs, back at it again, husband of Reality Ops.
Thank you guys for joining us again. My husband, we need to find a name for you. We have to.
I like Hubs.
Okay, but all right. It was hard for me to call you Hubs while we're talking, so I feel like we should be calling you a name. You just think Hubs?
For now, Hubs.
Okay, fine. For now, Hubs.
Until we figure out something better.
Okay. So my husband will be joining us for the first part of the podcast, which is the Vanderpump Rules recap. But then M is back for the news. So there's a lot of Vanderpump news this week and Valley news. And we talked about a bunch of that. We went deep into the podcast. This is a long one. It's basically two podcasts in one. So like you know from before, we always have the chapters there so you can skip around and listen at different times. When we're talking to M, you will hear that she's not able to record as much right now. You'll hear her talk about it later, but she's going through some things in her life. But we want to still continue, and she would like to still record. So we're just finding times wherever she could do that. And we were able to record the news together, and that was a lot of fun. But my husband is joining us for the actual recap again this week. And I have to say, you got some positive feedback.
Who doesn't love some positive feedback?
Yeah, I know. And I thank you guys for feedback. I know we've said before, but we typically say it at the end of the podcast. The feedback really does help us know, do they like it? And when you're just talking to a mic and it's going out there and it's not like social media where you have a million comments on each post. So we really do appreciate the feedback on Spotify. I don't think Apple has that. Spotify, the messages, the DMs, comments on our posts that we put out about our podcast. We're not paying for advertising for the podcast right now. We just don't have the money to do that. And maybe one day we will, but for now, we're just using our platform to do that. So we really appreciate you guys commenting and sharing those posts. It helps to build our listeners and hopefully help us continue to do this so we can even get like one advertiser and make a little bit of money and continue doing it more. That's it.
Yeah, I think
I'm just being honest because I want to be an honest human mother person. All right. Are you ready to delve into this episode? We liked it.
Yeah, this was a big episode, a lot going on. I'm excited to talk about it.
So episode 11 is what we are on. They continue from the episode before and they filmed the rest of the scene at the beach. And Ariana is really upset. And she continues by saying, you guys keep shoving him down my freaking throat. And what do you expect me to do? Have the best freaking beach day ever? What do you expect? And yeah, she is right. What do you expect? How do you expect her to be like, yeah, let me just hang out with my ex on the beach? Sounds perfect. Sounds like a fun time with his white and green Blues Clues striped sweater with his chest out.
Yeah, I mean, Ariana was definitely, I felt she was in a corner here. I just felt like no one was really sort of speaking up for her. And then, Brock was even sort of not coming at her, but saying, Sandoval, what do you expect? He's over here being castrated in a corner. And
do you think he's being castrated sitting in a corner?
No,
he's
not at all.
Castrated sitting in a corner?
Not at all. And I mean, in this scenario, like Brock should read the room better, or in this case, read the beach. Like, this is not the time to start talking to Ariana about how she should be more accepting of Tom in the group. And Tom's over there making little comments here and there and obviously poking Ariana. And she's, doing her best to just sort of ignore it and stay quiet. And I feel like these past few scenes where like the whole group gets together, it's almost like they're trying to force Tom back into this group without really considering how it's impacting Ariana.
And we said this last time too, it's almost like he's maybe even provoking her to act out because then he later is like, see, that's what I mean. That's how she acts, right? Or
Yeah.
he said in the last episode, maybe it wasn't this one. But it's almost like, is he provoking her? Does he like it? Does he know this will help him? I'm not sure. But whatever he's doing is working with Lala because Lala seems to be falling right into his trap.
In golf, they have sand traps. In Vanderpump Rules, they have Sandoval traps.
And Ariana says back to Brock, like, she disagrees. She's like, he keeps taking jabs at me. And it's true. And she says digging here also, which she talked about. So he does keep taking digs at her. Like, he just keeps bringing shit up that's going to upset her and going to make her have some sort of a reaction. Quick trigger warning here for reactive abuse. If that's a trigger for you, we're going to talk about it just a little bit. And a few people said to me to look up, because after we talked about on the podcast this week, again, thank you for your messages, to look up reactive abuse. I had never heard of before, but
Yeah, what is that?
I'll read it to you. It's actually very interesting. It says reactive abuse occurs when someone who has been abused begins to defend themselves by responding to abuse with physical and or verbal attacks. If someone is being physically or verbally abused, their fight or flight response might kick in to help them protect themselves. If they are unable to flee, they might flight back to their abuser by attacking them physically or verbally. They may resort to yelling, screaming, insulting, or even assaulting their abuser. So I have never heard of this before. I thought it was very interesting because I do think at some point people hit their breaking point and can tend to act different than he normally would and tend to lash out. And that's what she's doing. I mean, I don't know if that's what this is, but I'm just saying, like, it's an idea to kind of think about because it just feels like he can do and say all these things about her and keep digging at her. And then when she freaks out, Ariana, what are you doing? The man is castrated. Like, gosh.
Yeah, you're right. I never thought of it that way, but absolutely. Like when Tom, keeps making all the little comments and digs, I do think he's probably trying to get that reaction out of her to almost turn the tables and make it seem like she's the one that's sort of unhinged in a sense, but she's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to make it clear again. I don't know that's what this is. I mean, I think there is probably so many deeper levels to it. I'm sure people who have been in situations like this will be like, oh, no, that's not what this is. This might just be, sometimes there's just ideas pulled from these bigger things, like the idea of somebody triggering someone enough to get a reaction from them. And I did have several people bring this up as reactive abuse. So I'm like, let me look into it and bring it up. Just a quick little footnote here. I truly am not saying like Tom is an abuser, but when I looked it up more, I was finding that this tends to happen with narcissists and narcissistic abuse and being emotionally abused. So it's just something I think also for people to be aware that it exists. I would look into it if any of this sounds familiar to you in your own personal life. There's information online. There's also, quick information is TikTok and YouTube, but always make sure to back it up with factual information that you could find from, professional websites online or your doctor. So just wanted to throw that one out there because I had never heard of it before, but I am starting to look into it. It's just interesting. Okay, now back to the conversation.
And again, like nobody at the beach is even sticking up for Ariana or just saying, Tom, like, shut up, like you're being an idiot. I just don't get it.
She says, I'm allowed to feel a certain way because he did shit to me. I never did anything to him. Again, she's right. She not only did not do anything to him, she protected him for years. Does she behind closed doors talk down to him at times? Maybe. Do a lot of people do that? Yes. Is it also a personality thing? Yes. Are they probably also reactions to completely ridiculous things? Yes. She probably eventually just gets tired of everything? Also, yes. Think about the time when he worked his way into her cocktail book and she talked to him because I'm seeing people bring that up now, the way she talked to him. Like that was such a bad thing on her part when she was like, don't you roll your fucking eyes at me, you fucking bitch. I think she said to him.
I do remember
when
that.
she's like, you're not going to work your way into this. But it's because like, look what he's trying to do. Look what he's trying to do. Of course she's going to have a reaction at some point eventually. Oh, before he leaves the beach, also, Ariana says the pets are hers and that she paid the adoption fees. And that's where Tom says, this is what forces her to say the whole dig thing. He says, yeah, it was a one fucking bill she paid.
But like he says it as he's like turning away from her. So it's kind of like let me quickly make this comment and then, not face you.
And then Schwartz says that he and Tom are going to leave. And Ariana's like, okay, bye.
Sounds good. Bye. And the best part of this is Katie's face, and the camera then cuts to Katie, and she's making this like she's got like her. I mean, she's wearing sunglasses, so you can't really see her eyes, but you can see the one eyebrow is kind of like raised, and she's doing like a little smile, and she kind of shakes her head a little bit, like a Schwartz, like yeah, get the fuck out of here.
I always love Katie's reactions to Ariana and Ariana's reactions to Katie on the after show also. And we'll talk about it later, but I've heard that there's a lot that's being cut from them, like that hasn't been shown on the show. And I just wish they showed more of Katie and Ariana because I do like their dynamic between them. And then when they're leaving, Sandoval acts all concerned. Was Ariana getting emotional? Fucking, are you joking?
What an idiot.
You know she's getting emotional because you set her up to get, you literally saw her get emotional. Are you really gonna play like the little, like, I had no idea? Are you joking? Please. Ridiculous.
He's gaslighting in that situation. I know it's only Schwartz he's talking to, but it's like,
No, he's
you know
gaslighting
she's
the
getting emotional.
audience.
You just dropped the bomb and left, and Schwartz comes over and oh, is she getting emotional?
Yeah, bullshit. So then Lala like brings up to Ariana, basically trying to say like, what, can he say to you or what can he do? And Lala's like, okay, so he has no way of winning to Ariana is what her point is. And Ariana says, Lala, no. And again, I just don't understand, like everyone is saying, why are you even trying to make him win? Lala, you did this with Randall. I don't care if you say it's different. It's different in some ways, it's not different in many other ways. And you are trying to support the man who wronged her and trying to make her feel like she should be okay with him in some way. And you're wrong for doing that. And I don't agree with you.
Yeah, and again, it's like this has only been a few months after this happened. Like, let it breathe for a while. I feel like he's being forced back in here. Ariana has been judged by her non-acceptance of him coming back into the group. Let it breathe.
Let it
Like,
breathe.
Tom doesn't need a way to win right now in Ariana's book. Can he talk to the other friends? And yeah, but that should have nothing to do with Ariana. And I don't think Lala should be judging Ariana for that.
So something I wanted to bring up to you, because I know you don't like really get into the comments, but you go on my post, but you don't go on like other posts. Is people are saying this whole Lauren thing. So now people are calling her Lauren from Utah.
I've been starting to see Lauren here. It didn't click until you said it. Yeah.
You didn't know. So just like Rachel, when this whole thing happened, people were calling, including her, including Lala, was calling Raquel, because at the time she was known as the artist Raquel. But then they start calling her Rachel as a dig to her.
As a dig.
And so now everybody's calling Lala Lauren. How is Lauren or how is Lala or Lauren from Utah going to feel about that is what I'm wondering. How does Lauren like that? Because she made a big deal about
I have been starting to see that, and it's pretty funny. It's a dig without being too yeah.
It's actually crazy how much the people and we're coming at Lala too because of what she's doing, but it's so interesting how much the audience flips when they're pissed at her. Because even we just saw, I posted a video of pregnant Lala. By the way, this whole episode is like recording at different times, so it might be a little confusing when we're talking about certain days. So just pretend that days don't exist. But there was a video of her dancing with her pregnant belly at she was at her Palm Springs house, but they were at Coachella with their friends. And she looked gorgeous. If this were posted and everybody was in a good place with Lala, the comments would be, yeah, go Lala. And she's like making her stank face she makes when she dances. And people would be like, she's gorgeous. She's so hot mama, blah, 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 all positive. If you look at the comments right now, it's like 90% negative, tearing Lala apart for her dancing, for her even being at Coachella, like all of these things, for her making her face, like not the comments that you usually see for Lala. And it just shows you how interesting it is, perception of a person because of their actions, because of their personality. Somebody who is so beautiful to you, if you like them, they're so beautiful and you want to support them. And if you don't like them, you don't want to support them. And something I've thought about is Lala had her Amazon Live the other day, which I have to talk about at some point. But on the Amazon Live, I typically buy something each time to just be like, I'm here. She's giving us tea. I love Lala. I'm going to buy something, even if it's something small. If I buy a few things, and I won't buy something for a few of the lives, but I'll try to buy something. And I was on her lives and I said to my husband, Hubs, I said, I need slippers. And I got the same slippers from her last time and I want to get them again, but I kind of don't want to use her link. And I feel guilty about that, but I'm just like, I don't usually, I'm like, yeah, I want to buy it from Lala. And this time I'm like, I kind of don't want to buy it from Lala. I'd rather just get a different slipper.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, she's rubbing you the wrong way. She's rubbing people the wrong way this season.
And it's funny though, because she's made such a big deal about how Ariana should be filming and all of that and making them money. She's going to lose money from this because the audience is not on her side right now, in large part. Maybe they will get on her side if something that totally blows everybody away happens. Don't think it's going to at all, because I think they've let everything out of the bag basically at this point. But, and you'll hear at the end when we do the news part, you'll hear what I think happens at the reunion based off of everything we've heard, which is basically hearing the whole thing about the reunion, I feel. So spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear that, I do give you a spoiler alert at the time also. But I don't think her brands are going to do as well. I don't think she's going to get as many endorsements if people are against her. She could have came into the season, been a, stood up for her girl and got a shit ton more. After all, she did get that, what's the Uber Eats? Was it Uber Eats?
She's on the Uber Eats commercial with Scheana and Ariana. Yeah, good as gold.
Uber Eats is good as gold. Right. So she wouldn't have had that without Ariana. She wouldn't have had a lot of these things. She wouldn't have had send it to Daryl. She wouldn't have had that. And I'm not buying, I was like ready to buy her lip glosses recently too. I'm like, I have hope for her, but I don't like her right now. And so I'm not wanting to buy. Then Ariana releases her DSW shoe line. Guess what? Buying that shit. Why? Because I need shoes anyway. I'm going to support somebody I like. That's just the way, I like to support people I like.
Absolutely.
So I don't know.
I kind of feel what's also rubbing people the wrong way this season is like Lala, in past seasons has always been very real and kind of what you see is what you get. But this season, we're seeing a lot of the flip-flopping back and forth in different scenes. And, she's talking to Sandoval one scene. Then as we see coming up, her and Scheana are having a different conversation. And I just feel like we're getting a different version of Lala almost within each episode.
Okay, that's perfect lead into our next scene. So let's talk about that. There.
Sounds good. I don't know. I said sounds good.
Sounds good, Rob.
On to the next scene.
No, Rob. What's that? Sounds good, Captain. What's that? Nothing?
What? I know that's nothing.
Sounds like it should be something. That's something. Aye, Captain. Or something.
Aye, Captain?
I don't know. Leave me alone. What's aye? Isn't aye, Captain? Aye, Captain's from something. Well, aye, Captain.
It's what the pirates say. Right? Aye, Captain.
All right, forget it. So then we go to the bar. The Waterfront bar. Tom then doubles down on how he gets toilet paper, trash bags, to pens, to batteries, from electrical work to repairs, how he does all of these things for Ariana all the time. And production says, you just got destroyed on the internet for doing that. Why would you say it again? And he's like,
this is great.
I think, but his face is so good.
He's so serious about it. He believes what he's saying.
I wish I could portray the face. I think Ariana's going to be in for it when she gets her own place. Like, she's really going to be in for, like, a rude awakening with that face. Like, it's just... Sandoval, I promise you, Ariana can wipe her own ass and get her own batteries and pens without you. And I promise you that you would have trouble getting things if you didn't have Ariana by your side all those years. And you didn't have assistants who actually did those things for you, because Anne literally said, guess who was the one getting those things? She was.
Yeah.
You're in for a rude awakening, Sandoval.
It's such a rude thing to say.
That's exactly.
He's literally giving her no credit as a human being.
No.
He's concerned with her being able to buy toilet paper.
He cheated on her, and then he's trying to make her the villain. Like, it's so crazy. It's so crazy. Okay. All right. Anyway, what?
We did skip.
What did we skip?
Edit this around. So we skipped the part where Katie calls Tom. That's a hilarious part.
And this scene is actually happening. Actually, they're still showing flashbacks to the beach while Tom and the Toms are at Waterfront. but they're still on the beach, and that's when they bring up Tori, and James says that he thinks Schwartz is obsessed with Tori, which, guys, when you watch an episode like 3 times, you pick up a lot of little lines that you didn't the first time, because I didn't really notice that the first time. And Katie's just kind of making an interesting face there, and Scheana explains how she was the one who hooked up Tori with Schwartz. And, Sheena's a little matchmaker, but I find it interesting that Scheana was allowed to hook up Tori with Schwartz when obviously Tori knows the group. I guess not considered a friend of, or maybe just because she's not on the show. I don't know. Or wasn't on the show in the past. But like Rachel couldn't be hooked up with Schwartz, which I don't think Rachel should have been hooked up with Schwartz. I don't think any friend should be hooked up with an ex. I think it's strange. However, I just found it interesting that Scheana hooked up. And this is where, I don't know if you know this, husband, but this
Hubs.
But Jax said that this was a produced storyline, the hookup between Tori, Schwartz, and Katie. And oh wait, you did know this, because
I remember you saying something about this. Yeah.
So recently. It was like a produced, when he was off on his rocker, which we did bring up later in the Vanderpump news, and Scheana ends up calling him, basically just saying that he did a lot of pasta, code word for white stuff. She said that's why Jax was acting like that. But Jax says that this was a produced storyline, or he thinks it was, whatever. Did it feel a little fake to you?
Yeah, I mean, now that I know you talked about that, and thinking back to the scene, I did think it was a little strange in the moment. I know we'll probably get to it a little bit more, but I think just the awkwardness and some of the faces that even Tori was making herself when the two of them were together with her, seemed like she didn't know what she was supposed to do in that scene. It seemed a little forced. And Katie was pretty drunk.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just seemed a little forced, I think.
Okay. And then you liked the part with the phone call?
Yeah, so the Toms were sitting down at the waterfront. They were doing their water bombs, right? Water shots, as Tom called them. And Tom gets a call from Katie.
Tom Schwartz,
yeah. And he's all excited. Hey, Katie. And, Katie's just like, you left all your stuff here. And so I was like, well, it's for the greater cause. She's like, what cause?
What greater cause?
It's like, for Ariana's feelings and the vibe and the whole beach day. And then it cuts right back to the waterfront, and Tom Sandoval is like, don't say that. Yeah. Or annoyed.
Why did he say that?
I don't know. He doesn't want Schwartz to acknowledge Ariana's feelings. And it's very, very strange.
Very weird. I don't know what that was about. Don't say that.
And then, then it cuts back to the phone convo.
Jeez.
And then Schwartz is like to Katie, thank you for grabbing it, about his stuff. And Katie just goes, this is me letting you know that it's down here. Yeah. I was like, what? Katie's like, bye.
No, she does not pick his shit up anymore. You're divorced. No. You're not doing that. No. And he just left the shit. It takes 1 minute to go grab the shit and go. And you left the shit. I mean, it reminded me of like a little kid leaving their stuff for their mom at the beach. Yeah. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. No. I'm not bringing your shit to you.
No. Oh my God. So now everybody comes back to the bar and they order oysters. I don't know. What is the thing with oysters on the show? I think every single episode they're ordering oysters. Are oysters? We both are not a big fan of oysters.
No,
we're
I don't
more
really
of a mussel clam couple.
I'd rather you cook it. Yeah. We're a mussel clam couple. Go steam the mussels, bake the clams.
That's the Italian one.
Yeah, the raw oysters. I mean, we've had them before, but it's not hitting for me.
Give me a lobster roll and French fries. But anyway, Sandoval goes up to a group of girls who are considered in his appropriate age range, or like he said in the last time, what did he say? Or a little younger even?
A little younger.
Gross. Hi guys, I'm Tom. And then she says her name is Madison. Madison, what would you like to get your friends a roundup? He's trying to hit on these girls, and I just think he has the skill of a 14-year-old boy, probably.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that hit me first in this scene is like he's sitting down with Schwartz and goes over to the girls, and I'm thinking right away, okay, why is he doing this? Like, what's the point? Is he really trying to pick up these girls in this scene after the beach scene with Ariana, knowing everyone's coming back? I'm like, what is the point? Is he just trying to show on camera that he's out there mingling with girls? It just seemed very forced. I didn't know he did the whole shot with them and the cheers thing.
I mean, I guess it could be it could be like if there's no like asshole motives, it could be like just for the show motives, which I guess are still seen as asshole motives, but it could be either one of those. Him and Lala, like we said, are very, very much for the show. So Tori shows up and Schwartz is with those new group of slightly inappropriately aged girls for them, in my opinion. Sorry. Tori is young too.
Yeah.
25.
It's pretty young. James mentions it later.
Oh yeah, James does mention it later.
When he goes off on his rant.
I really like Tori though, like in real life. Like I follow her on Instagram and TikTok, and she's a sweet, beautiful girl with an amazing voice and talent. And she has like a really good story about how she trigger warning, but she survived SA, and so she is a cool and good person. So I like her. I just think that I think it's quite an age difference. However, Schwartz jokes, "Oh, my hot girlfriend's here." She says like she wants a drink, and she's like, "Do you know what I like?" And he's like, "Oh, tequila." But she doesn't like tequila. She likes champagne. Who likes tequila?
Tequila Katie, of course.
Katie.
And Schwartz knows that, and that's why he jumps in and says after, like, "Oh, that was another girl." I'm thinking, no.
So funny. And then Tori says to Schwartz, "So are you going to ask me on a date, or are you going to keep sending fire emojis?" Because that's probably Schwartz's level of interest, just sending fire emojis to, did you notice that, to Tori, like to flirt with her on
Is that his
DMs?
Flirting through text?
Schwartz then calls Katie, who comes up to them, a cock blocker. And he's like, "Katie, where'd you come from? This is our date. Katie, you didn't buy her a bottle of champagne." And then Schwartz says in the confessional, "I don't know if Katie's really into Tori or if she just wants to compete with me to prove that she's better." And I think it's probably a little bit of both. What do you think?
I think it's definitely a little bit of both. It's an opportunity where Katie can come in and almost like stick at the Tom a little bit and steal from him and get back at him.
Yeah. And then later we see Katie hooking up with Tori. So Katie wins that round of Tori.
Katie wins the day.
Yeah. So then we have really important scene, and it's a sit down with Lala, Ariana, and Scheana. And this is what you were talking about before, the back and forth. So Lala says to Ariana, and it seems to be a very emotional and genuine moment. It seems like Lala really feels for Ariana. I think Scheana always feels for Ariana. Like I said last time, I think Scheana starts to not be sure if her feelings are okay. Her OCD might play into this. If you don't know, I have OCD also, so I can understand like the going back and forth on things. I just don't tend to go back and forth on the same things, but a lot of people who have OCD do, like question their choices, I guess, or decisions more. I question them like in other specific ways. It's hard to explain. But anyway, it could be Scheana's OCD. I'm not sure, but she seems to not just go with like how she feels, and she seems to have a feeling on something, but then second guess it and then listen to what other people like Lala or Brock or whoever is saying and not really know what she thinks and what she wants. So I think Scheana's very genuine in this moment with Ariana, but I think that Lala later convinces her otherwise, and we'll talk about that when they go to the sperm bank. Lala says to Ariana, "You're never going to control Tom. What he does, how he acts, you can only control yourself. Do you feel like you have unresolved feelings?" This is a big part here, though. We really want to talk about this because Ariana says, "I know the amount of anger I feel for him. I understand it's not healthy." And Scheana's like, "I wish there would just be a calm conversation where it's just like, I know that I fucked up. I shouldn't have done that." And Ariana says, "But he's never going to say he fucked up. He hasn't even told me he fucked up about the fucking main thing." And we realized here, or I realized after like the third watch, right?
Yeah, we didn't.
And
you didn't realize this the first time, yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, listen to this." They're talking about, well, the unresolved is more than the dog, but they're talking about the dog in this situation. So when Scheana's like, "I know that I fucked up. I shouldn't have done that," she's actually talking about the dog situation to Ariana.
Yeah.
And then Ariana, and because you could see Scheana's face back to Ariana after. So Ariana's like, he's not even like saying he fucked up about the main thing. And so I thought this was interesting because this whole conversation seemed to be about the affair, but it's not. And I realized, oh my gosh, Ariana, the anger obviously is about the affair and the unresolved feelings, but a lot of this anger, this new anger, is about the dog. So with that, But about the dog, I guess we didn't realize how much of it was the dog. And if you think about it, it makes sense because the first couple episodes when she was around him at the bar or in the house, she wasn't quite as loud towards him, I guess, or have as much rage, I guess you can use the word rage towards him. But then it happened after the dog. So it just kind of like sparked her anger and hate and all that all over again. And I don't think the internet's realizing this. And I need to bring this up because it really upset the dog thing, really upset her because that's her child. So you will harm to her child. And we talked about this last time. Also, we understand she left the bones out. That I guess could be considered irresponsible. But him not having known where the dog was for several hours and closing her in the room, knowing that this is a dog that gets into things, to us is considered to be more irresponsible. He's more at fault to me in this situation. He also shouldn't have gone in her room. This wouldn't have happened if he had asked her if he can go in her room. She would have said, okay, I have bones out. Make sure you put the food away. Make sure the dog is out of the room. She would have checked him and she didn't. So I do think Tom is more at fault. Again, we said last time, we don't think he should be called the attempted dog murderer. He obviously didn't attempt to kill that sweet little Maya, but he did make a mistake. I don't think he should be getting quite as much heat, but the anger is because of both. It's because of the dog and it's because of all the ways he fucked up and how he still has not given a real apology for, like she says, the main thing and cheating on her with Raquel on national television.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned it last podcast where things would be a little bit different for Tom if in that moment he just acknowledged the dog situation
Yeah.
and just said sorry instead of deflecting and trying to put it back on her. Just like, you know what? I did F up there. I should have asked you to go in your room first. I shouldn't have, not knowing where the dog was. And that's why we're seeing a lot of the anger now because he's not even acknowledging. He's just dismissing her feelings here.
Yeah. It's just like a snowball effect of anger of what he's done. And she's like hit her boiling point. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this is where Lala says, which I really liked, and I was happy she said it. And then she pissed me off later. But she said, do you almost feel like when you're looking at him, like you just threw me away like I was nothing? And Ariana says, yeah. And she's crying and it's heartbreaking because you can see this real, genuine emotion from her.
She like really put her wall down there, like when Alala had asked that and like it, saw it hit her.
You knew it was real.
Yeah.
And she says, yeah, he knew these deepest, darkest parts of me and he just like doesn't care. And I said on the last podcast, that's when Ariana had liked my comment saying, like, he abandoned her, like, show her some grace. Like, she felt abandoned, wronged and abandoned. Like, it's horrible. So Lala says, you create a life with someone and this is what happens. Then things start to unravel and there's no guarantee a relationship is going to work out, which is true. I don't think she's giving her bad advice. It's just sad, And Scheana's like, that was your dream house. He fucking wrecked that house. Let's just get you out. Who cares about the materialistic things when it comes to your happiness? And she's crying and she's like, you're right. I just put so much of my life and my money and my time into making this my dream home. And not only did he wreck it, but he acts like he's somewhat deserving of staying there and keeping it. And the digs, I never did anything to him. I keep my armor up because this shit is fucking traumatic. And I'm trying to find out ways to go through all these things without making it everyone else's problem. But then he's talking all this shit because this guy has no remorse. And Lala says, out of all the ways you could have handled it, you fucking rose to the occasion, grabbed the opportunity by the balls, and fucking just ran. And they're like agreeing. So how did you feel about Lala in this moment is my question to you.
Well, again, back to the confusing Lala. Like in this moment, I felt she was a good friend, very supportive, understanding of Ariana's feelings, and she's hugging her, holding her, being there for her, and that's what Ariana needs as she's breaking down and sobbing there. Like this is the first time we're really hearing how Ariana, I think, really feels and how what she had built in that house was taken away abruptly.
Would you have thought that after the conversation, Lala would like continue being there for her now that she like knows how Ariana really feels? Because that's what I thought.
Well, yeah, I thought that would continue now.
It's weird.
And then we see in a scene or two later, it changes.
It changes.
Very confusing.
Flip flop flop. Flip flop flop.
Yeah.
All right. So Lala and Joe next get hot dogs. This was a scene I didn't expect coming. Joe says to Lala as they get the dogs with this giant wiener on the street, and she says, "We look like a lesbian couple." What does that even mean? You're with your friends getting hot dog. What made her say that?
I don't I don't know. You can't just go with your friend to get lunch without being a lesbian couple
I don't
or
know what
a
that
gay
meant.
couple. It's just
And then Lala's like, "Oh, what am I? Do I look like am I a lipstick lesbian?" And Joe's like, "Yeah." It was the weirdest comment. Why do they look like a lesbian couple? You don't go for your friends to get lunch. Does she not go with her girlfriends to just get lunch? She
I
used to
don't
just
know.
being around Raquel and just like looking at things on the
I don't
internet.
know. I mean, she's not used to that.
I don't know. It was so strange to me. I don't know.
Like, oh, I'm out for lunch with a girl in LA. They must think we're lesbians.
So weird. Okay. Anyway, Schwartz said that apparently, so I think a lot of people didn't hear this. Schwartz was the one who wanted Lala to go. Lala says this later too. Schwartz was the one who wanted Lala to go on this date with Joe, date for hot dogs. And Joe says that she didn't feel welcome at Hotel Ziggy. She says, this, all right, here's a big one. I see how much Schwartz loves his friend, and I want to be welcomed into the group. And if I want to be a part of Schwartz's life forever,
And
ever, ever. And potentially, Lala is the ticket to that. She wants to be part of Schwartz's life forever, even though they are not together anymore.
how is Lala the ticket to Schwartz's life?
She thinks she's her into the friend group and into Schwartz's life, right? How's that?
I don't know. Very strange.
So again, like I go back and forth with Joe. Sometimes I feel really bad for her, and then other times I'm like, forever, ever, ever, ever. It's like to me, the boundaries are strange. Like you're not together. You know he has a girlfriend now too when you're filming these confessionals, or you know that you're not together even while you're filming these confessionals or whatever it is. You know you weren't together at that time. You weren't supposed to be together at that time. And you're saying that. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit later. I feel like after watching the whole episode, I do think Schwartz was leading her on a little bit.
But wait, yes.
So I don't think she's wrong in thinking that there's potentially a future.
Okay.
I think some of the comments that Joe makes sometimes are very out there, but because I think she's probably just nervous or anxious in the situation, she says silly things. She just says,
Okay, hold on. I have to bring up a point. She says she sees Lala as a ticket to getting in his life forever. Did she see Schwartz as a ticket to getting on the show forever? I'm
"You're giving me the."
I'm moving the eyebrows at him right now. Did she?
That's a good point. I've never thought of that before.
Huh? Makes you think.
Has Joe made attempts to try to get into the group in the past?
That was like one of the things, and I think kind of Kristen. I don't know if Kristen felt that, or if Kristen kind of was just like insinuating that, or if that's what a lot of us took from it. But when Kristen talked about it, Kristen was her best friend. It seemed like she just stopped talking to Kristen when she started hooking up with Schwartz. Did she think Kristen was on a show? I'm friends with Kristen. Woo! And now Kristen's not on the show, but look at Schwartz. Schwartz, I'm going to cut his hair. Schwartz is now single. I'm going to go with Schwartz, and I'm going to be on a TV show. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm just saying it's something to think about. The ticket thing was like, it's a weird comment. He's my ticket. She's my ticket to be in Schwartz's life forever.
It's very, very clingy.
Yeah, there's a term I don't want to use.
Stage 5 clinger?
No.
It's from Wedding Crashers.
Yes. If you don't know that, then
yeah. She's almost like setting up the perfect scenario around so that she's with the person.
Yeah. And I keep saying this, like I'm very torn in my head. And if I'm not, I think I'm not really doing my job as somebody who is doing this podcast if I don't explain like the different things I'm thinking in my head, and if I'm just telling one thing because I'm trying to be correct here and being like, well, on one hand, I think she's just innocent and quirky and truly doesn't realize what she's doing, and she's just going with her heart. And then on the other hand, I'm like, is she calculated? Is she lying? Is she all these things? I don't know, but I do have too many signs that tell me that there is some type of calculation there that make me like lead down that path a little bit more. I just feel bad because I don't want to say that and be, I just hope we find out. I hope we find out.
Yeah, because then we're also seeing scenes where she's very vulnerable, and you kind of feel for her in that situation. So
Yeah.
I think it's important that you give your download of all of your thoughts in the situation, because it kind of leaves the door open for interpretations. And when the truth does come out,
If the truth ever comes out.
if it ever comes out,
Look at that timeline of Raquel and Sandoval, which I still just don't even believe, especially after I hear like her newest podcast episodes when she's like defending him more. I feel like, I don't know.
well,
Not defending
if the
him more,
lawsuit
but
goes through, we'll get more of a timeline, I think.
I kind of hope it goes through just and clears Ariana, but just so that we do get some more information.
Get all the deets.
All the deets. Okay. So like Lala doing this again is against Katie, and we will talk about that later when we get to the Katie scene. But I do think it's very strange that Lala went for hot dogs with Joe without just letting Katie know as a friend, hey, they want me to get hot dogs with Joe. I want to film another scene because it's more chance that I get good screen time and more money. Is that okay? How do you feel about that? Or even if she doesn't say okay, but even if she says just letting you know, at least Katie had like a warning, I guess, rather than I met with Joe yesterday. To me, that's how I would.
Yeah, I think it's weird that Lala didn't give Katie a heads up there. And now that you mentioned that, I'm thinking back for 2 episodes ago, I think, when Joe was out and all the girls were there and they were kind of just talking about Joe at, where was that? When they were at the event, when Tom comes over and says, "Oh, excuse me, Ariana, answer my email," like that whole thing. When Joe was there and Scheana and all them, they were kind of being mean girls, and Joe kind of left crying. Was Lala also jumping in on Joe with the comments, or was it more just Katie and Scheana?
No, Lala was like just laughing though. She was like laughing at it.
She wasn't
She
adding
was like
to it, but
a
she was
bystander, I
yeah,
would
okay.
say. But saying that is making me realize though, Scheana was the one who was really being rough towards Joe. And I don't see her really coming for Scheana that much, but she's coming for Katie because of her comments way earlier.
Oh, true. Okay. I was wondering, because if Lala was jumping in with a lot of comments and things like that in
Yeah,
that
no,
situation,
she said she felt
and now
bad
she's
about
meeting with
it.
Joe, and it's like
This
back and
also
forth.
reminds me of Lala in that season where she goes to meet with Raquel separately and is like, I'm trying to understand you. And Rachel's like, or Raquel's like, Lala, thank you for meeting with me. And, I appreciate you doing this. And Lala does that. And then she like calls her,
Oh yeah, that was like season 6 or something.
TWAT after.
I do remember that. She did it for James, right? Because James had asked like her to clear the air with her.
Yeah, I don't know. So Lala does ask Joe, though, if she knew about Tom and Raquel, and she says, but how did you not know, though? And Joe says, no. Okay, here's the thing. I hung out a couple times. I'm not like watching them. I'm looking at Schwartz. She's looking at Schwartz.
I call bullshit.
And then Joe says in a confessional, to be honest with you, I thought Ariana and Sandoval were broken up. I think it's crazy for anyone to even assume that I'd be like, Sandoval, how's your relationship with Ariana? It just wasn't a thing. Like, move on. What are you talking about?
But I call complete bullshit.
Yeah, that is bullshit.
She knew about it.
It's gotta be bullshit.
You gotta be bullshit.
That.
Are you kidding me?
Lala makes a joke about D's don't fall on V's, but I think with Joe, they actually do fall on V's. D's fall on V's. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And so I don't know. You don't think she's innocent with that?
I really don't. I don't think. Yeah.
I gotta find that picture. Oh, but also people have been pointing out old videos of her dancing with Ariana, watching Sandoval's show, clearly seeing Ariana like looking at Sandoval all lovingly while he's performing with, by the way, Raquel right next to them. So it's like Joe, Ariana, then Raquel in a row, front row, watching Sandoval's show. So she obviously knows that they're together. She sees her watching him. She's hugging Ariana. Like, I don't know.
It's a classic case of playing dumb.
Classic case of playing dumb? That's a case? Yeah. Oh, yeah, playing dumb. Yeah. She's so tuned into Schwartz that she somehow doesn't see anything else around her. Is just, I mean, that's bullshit.
It's
It's
bullshit.
gotta be
Like, are
bullshit.
you with the blinders on? You can't see anything. You're just seeing Schwartz straight ahead. No
No.
idea what's going on in your surroundings. You're not going to question Tom at all when you're around with Raquel.
And how do you think that him and
Rachel.
Ariana are broken up? I mean, look at social media, look anywhere in the universe.
She knows the show. Why would she?
I don't know.
Yeah. So then Lala asks Joe if she wants to be in a relationship with Schwartz. And, this is where Joe sort of brings up like their nicknames and refers to Tom as T Money.
And she's
and
Joseph.
she's Joseph. And
Which, by the way, I've said, to me, she is Michael Scott. Joe is like the female version of Michael Scott. She even makes faces like Michael Scott. Yeah. She's Michael Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in the scene later that we'll get to where she's doing his hair, she does like little noises and sounds like. Yeah,
she's Michael Scott.
It's Michael Scott.
Joseph Scott.
Joseph Scott.
Which we'll talk about this later, but her name, we found out, I actually have seen before. I think she even said on her Instagram. Her name is Kaylee. It's not Joe. Joe is her middle name. Her name is Kaylee Jo Wenberg. It's a very like Midwestern name. I don't know, but she's from Minnesota, I think. But Kaylee Jo, is that how you say it?
Minnesota.
That's like Bobby is Roll. I still love that show. Kaylee Jo Wenberg, who goes by Joe, even though Kaylee's a pretty name. Yeah. I don't know. Why do you go with Joe? I mean, it's up to you, Lots. Kaylee goes by Joe. Lauren goes by Lala. Rachel goes by Raquel. Scheana Junkin, or Jukin, I can't remember how you say her last name. Scheana Junkin goes by Scheana Shay, even though she's now Scheana Davies. Jax Taylor was Jason Couchy. They're like Madonna.
Yeah.
And Cher.
I go by Hubs.
You go by Hubs. Now it's time for a quick commercial break. For those of you guys who love tumblers like we do, check out Kim's Glitter Factory on Instagram and Etsy for customized, personalized glitter tumblers. From wine, coffee, water, and Stanley tumblers, she has you covered. She went viral last year with her Bravo VPR-inspired designs, which made their way to all the cast members and quite a few other celebs. There's a link to her Etsy page at the top of her bio. For all of our listeners, she's offering a special promo code for 10% off. Just use code REALITY10. Again, on Instagram, you can find her under Kim's Glitter Factory. Also, I've gotten to know her, and she is the absolute sweetest. So we like to promote little sweeties on here. Let me know if you get anything. And now back to the pod. So next we have Topgolf. And James is there with Katie, Ariana, Allie, obviously. And James asks Katie if she remembers making out with Tori, right? And she's like, of course I remember.
No, I did want to point something out before that.
Before this? It's the beginning of the scene. No. What do you want to point out?
Well, so first off, I love Topgolf. Topgolf is...
That's what you want to point out?
Super fun. I mean, this scene is James and the girls. And one thing that I thought was hilarious was all the girls were going up and hitting the ball, and James is sort of cheering them on. And then James' turn to get up. And he makes the classic mistake that a lot of guys make when they try to impress the girls, and he wants to try to smack the ball as far as possible.
Yeah.
And me being a golfer, I know, the number one thing is you got to keep your eye on the back of the ball before you actually hit it.
Okay.
But I've made the same mistake before, and you try to kill it and you whiff it and you miss the ball, and it's embarrassing.
Okay. Do you remember when you took me golfing for the first time, and probably the only time? Well, the only time that was like a real golf experience. Do you remember when
we played pitch and putt, right?
I wasn't trying to impress anyone, and I could not hit the fucking ball. It's hard. It's really hard. Like, I don't understand how you hit the ball. I don't get how you swing and are just supposed to know what's the bottom of the club called? The little puck thing at the end. How are you supposed to know?
The puck thing at the end?
What's that thing called at the end? Do you know what it's called?
What do you mean? At the end of the club? The head. It's the head of the club.
How are you supposed to be able to? You have to have perfect. It's got to be the perfect distance. It's extremely difficult.
It's a pendulum. It's just all about the swing.
No, not for people who are unathletic, and I don't think James is athletic. Do you think he's athletic?
I mean, seeing him play golf, I don't think he's athletic there.
But I was like, when I saw him, I'm like, I get it. I don't think it's just trying to impress. I think it's just anyone who.
I will say, Allie had a really good swing.
Oh, okay.
It looked like she's played golf before.
Okay, shout out to Allie.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, she knows distances of stars and shit, so she probably is good at distance of club to ball.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's a very boy thing to bring up. I love that you brought that up. Or a very unro thing, I would say.
All right.
Yeah, so then James jumps to confessional. And first off, I love James' confessionals when he kind of goes off on his little rant. And okay, let me paint the bloody picture. And he starts talking through, Tom and Katie's relationship and how they got married and went through the divorce, and now they're both dating the same 21-year-old. And
23-year-old, right?
at the end, he goes, "This shit is fucking weird." It's just, I don't know. I just love the enthusiasm that James puts into a lot of his quotes.
It is weird. Like Lala does say it at the end too with the paintball, like the 23-year-old thing. And I said before, I forgot that Lala said at the end also. It is weird. Like it is. They're too young for you. Okay, I'm sorry if anyone's listening to this and offended, I do apologize. And I do know that Nick Vile and his fiance Natalie, who is a beautiful person inside and out, seems like she is much younger than he is. I think she might be 23 also, and he's like 40 or 41. I understand it works out. Your grandparents were a decent age apart, but not that far
No,
apart.
not that far at all.
But it is kind of strange. And James is just like pointing out the obvious. He really does just point out the obvious in a lot of these situations. I mean, you need a James confessional to make the show more fun, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think every episode needs a James confessional.
Katie asked Ariana how the conversation went with Scheana and Lala. And Ariana says that they were like, I don't want you to be all triggered by him. And Ariana responded, he's literally like throwing all kinds of jabs under his breath that are in full earshot of me. And Katie says, I don't know why they're not understanding. I'm confused. So Katie is saying what we're all saying. Like, Katie is us. We are Katie. It does not make sense. Yes. And thank God she has Katie. Like, I truly feel like thank God Ariana has Katie there. Because if she didn't, she would not. I don't think she would make it through the season if she didn't have Katie there. What would she do? She would have such a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, Katie's by her side this whole time. I wonder what Katie would have said, if anything, if she was in that scene with them, if she would have added anything to it or
Lala would have ended up fighting with Katie.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have turned that way.
James mentions the paintballing group text that Sandoval sent to everyone. And this is a good example of what Ariana had said originally in one of the first episodes to Lala, which is, he's going to try to ice me out of the group. Because she's like, okay, so she didn't get a group text. And Katie says about going, if they ask if she's going, she said, I'd rather eat a fucking leather jacket. James.
Just another example of Katie not wanting to do, some of those, well, I guess sort of physical events, right? In the last episode, we talked about the working out, and she's just miserable doing that.
Yeah, and then add Sandoval to that, and it's like the perfect recipe for nothing fun.
Yeah.
For her. For me too. That's how I'd feel.
So then James goes to Allie, like, yeah, I want to, go paintballing, whatever. And then he goes, there might be some sneak attacks. I might be in the bush. And he does his, throws his arms up, might be in the bush. Ariana, it's about jumping out and attacking, I guess.
Ariana says that Sandoval has his own paintball gear because he thinks he's some sort of professional paintballer. And then we do see him after, like, coming out, like, he looks like that's what paintball people wear.
Yeah. I mean, the gear that Sandoval had was, yeah, that's what
looks like he's in a suit to be like on a marble.
Yeah, he's like ready to go. Like he's going into war.
Ali asks Ariana how the stuff with the house is going and if she has any ideas about her dream place or what part of LA. And Ariana mentions that she wants to get a house with a treehouse vibe. And I love that because her house actually has like a slight treehouse vibe to it, the house that she actually bought. So that was exciting to see that, like, that was something that she put out there. And they were saying, like, yeah, you manifested. And now she's in that. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So the next scene, Lala and Scheana go to the Cryobank, the sperm bank, because Lala is having a baby on her own without a partner, and Scheana is there to join her. This was a very strange situation, not because of where they're going, but because of the way their conversation went while they were actually there. So we start out by they're meeting this guy in the room that looks like a room straight out of Severance.
Yeah, definitely Severance. Weird looking room, weird chair lineup.
Just like very awkward.
Unwelcoming room.
They loved the guy. The guy was the best to them.
Oh, he was great. He was amazing.
He was amazing, they said. I felt he was a little bit like car salesman-y, but they loved him and that's what matters. So anyway, I liked what Lala said here when she was explaining that she wants her friends to be a part of this since she feels her baby Ocean was born out of love at the time and she wants that. So she's going to include her friends in like the process, which I thought was nice. I liked I like that. I liked hearing that.
Yeah.
Lala explains here that the way she grew up was with a family that was together and her parents were not divorced and not separated. She gets very emotional. And I do feel for her when she's talking about this and she's explaining how she wants her child like raised in a household where everyone is there. And she feels like she deeply failed the innocent soul, Oceans, and that she's not risking that again. And this has caused a bit of a controversy because I did feel for her. Anytime somebody has emotion, like that's real emotion to them, I feel for them. I can see how it's a little confusing though, because she's saying that Ocean is from a broken household, and doesn't have the dad living there. But
Yeah.
but this new baby's not going to have a dad in her life at all, unless Lala, ends up being with a partner and that happens. But I just found it interesting that she's so upset about Ocean not having the typical household, but she's not bringing the new baby into a typical household either. So it's just kind of interesting to me why it means so much to her when she's not doing that's not what she's doing now. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. But another thing she says too is that she wants to know that the new baby is hers forever.
Okay.
So like, how does that come into play?
Okay, so this is one of those things that does make me upset, and I don't think she intends it to sound this way, but I feel like when she makes comments like I want a child that's all mine, like only mine.
I don't want to share a child.
I want to have this child forever. Like you have Ocean forever. Ocean is all yours. She does have a dad too, but she's also completely, like, she's literally said that she wants a child that's completely hers. She says this on her podcast. She says it on the show. And Ocean is completely yours. And I just wish she would be more mindful of her words with that, because if Ocean ever hears those words,
When she gets older?
yeah, and I know Lala's not doing it on purpose. I don't think Lala's meaning it in that way that she doesn't feel like Ocean's fully hers. But I'm just saying that I don't think she's realizing how they sound to say, I want a child that's completely mine, all mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think she's realizing that. And maybe she's just thinking about the stress of having Randall in her life through Ocean.
Yeah. I think it's just one of those things. Keep it in your head.
Yeah.
And don't say it out loud.
Yeah.
But like, try
Not the
not
camera.
to. Yeah, I try not to put that out there into the world, because if I were Ocean as a child ever hearing that, or as an adult even hearing that my mom felt like, oh, I wasn't completely hers, like she didn't have me all on her own. I'm just saying she has to be more mindful of the way she's saying that, in my opinion.
However, I'm fully aware that because I haven't ever been in this situation, I don't know how it would feel. And like, I don't know the levels. I don't know the layers to it that other people understand or would understand. So that's also why I'm not judging, because I'm like, well, I haven't been there, so I don't know how that feels. I'm just thinking from a child's perspective.
Again, I do feel for her. I think it's beautiful that that she's really ready for another child. Doesn't know when she'll have a partner to do that. And so she's like, yeah, I'm going to do this on my own. And I think that people who really want children and will love a child will give them the best, life that they possibly can, whether or not they have two parents there.
I think the love that she would show on her own and the support that she has from others would be plenty.
So we go from feeling really emotional with Lala and this moment to then the guy leaving for them to have a little powwow in that room in the cryobank. That's when they decide to talk about Ariana. And all of a sudden, everything changes. And now, instead of the way they were acting towards Ariana at the Waterfront bar, they are talking about her in such a negative way.
Complete 180.
Complete 180. Scheana says, it's obviously very forced and planned. We're going to talk about this. Scheana says, honestly, I'm still hung up on our conversation with Ariana. And Lala says, actually, do you want to be Lala and I'll be Scheana?
Oh, role play?
Yeah. Who do you want to be, Lala or Scheana? Who's your fancy for this?
Well, I've always wanted to be a pop star.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'll be Scheana.
Like Britney Spears?
Yeah. More like Fergie.
Oh, is Fergie enough of
Yeah.
a pop star for you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
I
you
will
get to be Scheana, top of all.
I'll be Scheana.
Good as
Yes.
gold.
Yes. Okay. So Scheana goes, honestly, I'm still hung up on our conversation with Ariana.
Right? How do you feel about it?
I'm still treading lightly with her right now, and I don't want to upset her. And
I don't know if she's trying to just stand her ground, but she's not going to win this game. It's very simple. Move out.
yeah.
It's like, I can't talk about this anymore. You're choosing to stay in the house so I don't feel bad.
I think a big part of it is her pride. And she's like, I can't go into an apartment and like,
So hold on. Your pride is saved living with the man who cheated on you with your best friend?
yeah, that's where it doesn't make sense to me.
You'd be better off moving to Sunset living in a box.
One day this will all be over, and whenever it is, it will make sense of why it took this long.
I hope so. Okay.
That was good. That was fun.
That was a great role play.
Yeah.
So what the frick?
We should have Draw Me Bitch do an animation of us with the role play.
Oh God, don't bring that up. The poor thing will feel like she has to do it.
You don't have to do it.
No, and she's a listener. All right. So here's the thing. Scheana is absolutely talking to Lala and getting this information, talking to Brock, maybe Brock, definitely Lala, and hearing Lala's side, and maybe her OCD, again, I have OCD, so I understand what it's like. Her OCD is maybe going back and forth and saying, oh yeah, I feel for Ariana, but then I hear Lala and I'm like, oh, maybe Lala's right. Oh, maybe this person's right. Oh, maybe that person's right. And not knowing what to do. And it just feels like Scheana is getting Lala in her head and they're having these forced conversations. So I just realized, do you think Lala is wondering if Ariana is BSing people? Like, do you think Lala is feeling maybe, because she keeps saying, I want her to speak for things. I want her to explain things. So
BSing in what sense?
do you think that she's not sure if Ariana has the right motives? Or like if Ariana really is just, I don't know, one day then going to get over it and continue living with Tom? Like, why is Lala doing this?
I don't know. It's mind-blowing to me. I can't, I mean, even when you say, does Lala think Ariana's BSing? I can't even begin to comprehend what she would be BSing about in this scenario.
I know, but Lala seems like she's wanting, and we talk about this later when we do the Vanderpump news, she seems like she's wanting Ariana to answer for things. And so why does she have to answer for things if you don't think she has things to answer for?
Very strange. I can't get my head around it. Like, Ariana had this thing happen to her.
Yeah.
She's dealing with it. Give her a freaking minute, like I said before.
She thinks, I think.
And that's it.
I think she thinks that there's like, I don't know what the fuck she thinks.
Does Lala think maybe that Ariana is keeping some of this going to continue to get the attention and endorsements and deals?
Yes.
And now Lala's jealousy kicks in even more, like I said before. Okay. So is that the angle there?
Okay. So this did come up on another podcast. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. You're probably right. That's probably what this is. She is, but then why the house? But she thinks she's holding on to this to keep everything going and to like keep punishing Sandoval. So she keeps going. You're right. And then she keeps going with it. And Ariana keeps getting her deals, and it pisses Lala off because she wants these things that Ariana's getting. The whole God thing, bam, got it. Wow.
Yeah. But I mean,
that's what it is.
That's probably what it is.
That's probably what it is. She thinks that she's continuing to be angry at Sandoval and not stop it for her own selfish reasons.
I can understand that Lala would think that way, I guess. But Ariana's introduction,
I could understand that too, because
I was going to say, like, Ariana getting into these endorsements and deals, did it come about because of Sandoval initially? Yeah. I mean, she got the batteries, the Duracell.
They came from Sandoval. I mean, listen, girl, they came from Sandoval, but she wouldn't have gotten them if people didn't like her. That's the difference.
But now she's got Dancing with the Stars. They saw how amazing she was there. And now she's on Broadway. Like, Broadway's not from Sandoval. Like,
right, like Broadway wouldn't have happened if
now
they didn't
she's
see
on
Dancing
her
with
own
the
level,
Stars.
and she's super talented, and she's getting all these deals because she's very likable and she's very talented.
She's very smart.
She's very
smart with the way she responds to things in the press too, unlike the other people.
Yeah.
Which is why Scheana doesn't get quite as much because, even though Scheana's a performer, I know people talk about her singing, but she is a performer, but she doesn't get quite as much. I think it's because she's not as careful and smart about the way she speaks publicly, where Ariana is more careful about the way she speaks publicly. Ariana is just very, I think she just doesn't want to bring people down publicly. I think she wouldn't want that happening to her, and she doesn't do that.
I think there's no value in that in her mind.
But absolutely, that's 100% what it is. Lala thinks that Ariana wants to keep it going. Or I think Ariana's keeping it going because she's not going to be like, stop talking about my ex. Who the fuck would say? I would never say that. I would never be like, enough about my ex now. I just wouldn't, honestly.
No. Maybe years down the road, years and years, not 4 or 5 months after.
Right. Right. Maybe she'll say it in an interview at some point. That's true. But yeah, so that's definitely, that makes sense now.
Yeah, I mean, Ariana has broken out of the Vanderpump universe bubble and gone to this sort of next level now where she's on Dancing with the Stars.
It's a jealousy there.
Broadway. She just came out with another endorsement I saw, the ad
DSW.
on TikTok with DSW. And
what TikTok?
She had something else where she was like shaving her legs or something with a Gillette.
I think she has another Bic one out. Yeah.
Bic, yeah. And then she's getting all these deals. And she's outside of that bubble now.
Mm-hmm. James Kennedy, by the way, just got an act at Coachella, which was huge because Santa was like, you don't really do anything big or whatever. And years ago, I don't know if you've seen this reunion yet. No, I think you definitely have. They were like, James, he's like, I want to play Coachella one day. And they were like, James, shut up. You're not, they were like, that's not going to happen. And they were like, you're right, making fun of him so bad. And he was like, what? I can't dream. Look at him now. And Ariana posted, like, proud of him on her,
That's good. She's supportive.
She is supportive of, Okay. Anyway, that was good. That was interesting. I like that.
Quick note about James. I love when I see the TikToks that people post when they're like one of James's shows and like he kicks in the Vanderpump theme song and people just go nuts.
Yeah, they go nuts. They go nuts.
The energy. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the next scene is Schwartz goes to the salon, I think, where Joe works, right? And as soon as he walks in, he's saying hi, and he goes, you guys can do anything you want. Full midlife crisis. And that...
I actually didn't realize he said that.
And as soon as that happened, it clicked with me. I'm like, oh, wait, is this the scene where he gets his hair bleached? And I think you had said it at the same time while we were watching it.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Joe asked him what he did last night, right?
This is where Schwartz had talked about Tori, and, he'd gone on his date. And Joe goes, where's this human coming from? I've never heard of this person. Right? And that's where Tom goes in and says, she's been very close friends with Scheana for like 10 years.
So Joe brings up a point. She says, well, I'd really like to know why the girls are allowing her to, quote unquote, go on a date with you if she's in the friend group.
And then Tom goes, no, that's gone out the window. The whole don't violate the friend group thing. The game has changed ever since Katie and Max.
Okay. See,
so again, back to Schwartz thinking like, we're on a clean slate now. The game has changed.
Clean slate. Everything's better. Schwartz did no wrong. We're all clean. So Joe is doing his hair. And I talk about this with M, so you're going to hear it. You didn't hear it yet. Joe is doing his hair. And she bleaches his hair from root to tip. When you bleach it from root to tip, the bleach is on the root longer, which is why he was like, my head's burning. You're not supposed to bleach from root to tip.
Oh, I was wondering why he said his head's burning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can get some itchiness, like especially if you're like me, you have eczema, or if somebody has psoriasis or whatever it is. Sometimes it's just like tingly, but it shouldn't be like that. Here's my question. Do you think that Joe effed up his hair on purpose?
Oh, that is a good question.
You didn't hear about that?
No.
A lot of people think
messed it up on purpose so that he doesn't have any good dates and she's home for Joe.
She goes in there, he tells her about the date, then he's going to Sandoval.
Well, Joe was asking a lot of questions throughout. What'd you do last night? What are you doing tonight? And then she invites herself to the Mondrian.
Yeah.
After Schwartz had said what they're doing.
Yeah.
So did she mess it up on purpose and bleach it that much?
So she's a hairstylist.
Yeah. What I thought was, I've never gotten my hair bleached like that before. And I don't think I would.
Oh, what are you going to say?
Well, and I thought what was interesting was after she bleached his hair and then she washed it and now it was like back to like this orangey brown and then it was like dark again. And she's like, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. And then by the end, it was like this bleach blonde. I don't know why the color kept changing. I don't know
how it kept changing either because she toned it and it made it the grayish, the more grayish.
Does it normally take that long, or was she just trying to keep them there longer?
Do you remember, like when I used to get like the what's it called? I can't remember what I used to get.
Oh, well, you get like the highlights and
the highlights. I got highlights, but when I used to get the full blown wanted to look like Britney Spears, Jessica Simpson, it took like 4 hours.
Yeah,
each time. So it takes a long time, but I don't, and there's toning and all that, but I don't get how the tone went from shit to like silvery gray, toned to tone down the brassiness back to the shit. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I don't know if in editing maybe they were just clipping things together differently.
Maybe because I know then a different day they go to his apartment. Lena, the lead hairstylist there, I think the girl who owns the salon, who also does Chris and Jody's hair. Lena goes to the apartment with Joe to fix Schwartz's hair another time.
Oh.
So I don't really understand the whole transitioning of hair so quickly. That was a weird thing.
She also wasn't wearing gloves to bleach his hair.
I don't know if she does bleach. No, I'm serious. I don't know if she does bleach.
I don't know.
And I said I have to look this up. I'll look it up and we'll report back next time. Anyway, she is inviting herself out to the event with them. The clear conversation. I'll be Joe, you be Schwartz. What are you doing tonight?
We're going to Mondrian. It's like a singles mixer. You know, Tom didn't want to go alone.
Wait, I want to go.
And then this is me looking reluctant, not making eye contact. He says, okay. Or whatever it was he says.
Well, you're going to show up with some pretty kick-ass hair.
Yeah, and a kick-ass chick.
Okay, so you noticed that.
I noticed that on the second rewatch.
Right, a lot of people didn't know.
Because there was kind of some music playing, and he said, yeah, and a kick-ass chick. And right away I'm thinking like, okay, another example of where Schwartz is potentially just giving her mixed signals and leading her on, and we see more of this later in the episode.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, that sounds pretty inviting.
Yeah.
It's like breadcrumbing her a bit.
But he's also going to a single mixer. It's like two sides of it, right? On one hand, he's going to a single mixer. I don't think, I mean, who knows how they edited it, but I don't think that he made it sound in this conversation like it was only for Sandoval, like she's saying she thought it was. She thought it was only for Sandoval. But then, yeah, I agree with he's saying with a kick-ass chick. I mean, especially if you like someone. Like when I was like in 6th grade and I liked a boy, any comment that the boy would say to me, I'd be like, what did he mean by that?
Would draw you in.
Yeah, and no, I'd be like, what? I'd be like, does that mean he likes me?
Yeah.
You know, or if he'd be like, oh yeah, science is my favorite period, I'd be like, but I'm in science with him.
Is that a number 2 pencil? I love number 2 pencils.
He likes the same things I like.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she is just hearing everything that way because that's how she feels, or if you know what I mean? Like it's Schwartz, he is nice to everybody. Sandoval does say this. I'll give him that credit there. Sandoval does say in a confessional, Schwartz is nice to everyone, does like everyone. The amount of people who have told me they've met Schwartz and basically have fallen in love with him is insane. Okay. Including like some people who are close to me. They're like, I just love him now. Now that I met him, oh my God, I love him. And like feel like they could date him. You know, it's a thing.
Yeah.
If he's Schwartz is, people are not talking about this. There's something you have to come up with a term.
I don't know what it would be. I mean, I see him on the TV. I haven't met him in person, and
yeah,
I see all the stupid shit he's done over the seasons, but I still love him.
Yeah, it's very charismatic.
It draws you in, yeah.
Yeah.
People get like Schwartzied.
But yeah, so it is confusing. She bleaches his hair. We don't know.
The hair reveal. What stood out to me is the hair reveal comes, they look in the mirror, and Schwartz goes very Bieber-esque.
Very Bieber-esque.
Which to me was a quick throwback to the text that Joe had sent Katie.
Which, P.S., I don't remember if I updated the podcast or not, but guys, Katie did love Bieber. Katie and Joe both love Bieber. Joe has a cardboard cutout of Bieber.
Who doesn't have the fever? That's what I said.
Bieber fever?
Yeah, the Bieber fever.
Oh, okay. Was the Bieber the one my little sister had the cutout of when I used to walk by and get scared every day?
No, that was
Harry
someone
Styles?
from One Direction, I think.
Niall?
Yeah.
Okay. One of them.
Freaked the shit out of you every time you walk by the door.
Every single time I walk by her door,
looks like someone's standing there.
I would jump.
Yeah.
Every time. No, don't have a cutout in your house. It's just like some advice. It's very scary.
Oh, so now that's the entourage scene as they're walking up.
Did you think it was Entourage? Is that what you thought of?
Oh, straight away.
Oh, that's what you thought of?
Straight away.
Because I saw somebody else said that and I didn't think of Entourage. That's so funny.
Right away.
All right. We're talking about
the whole intro to Entourage is where the guys are walking. You got the music. It's in slow motion. It's very cinematic.
Yeah.
Right away. I'm like, this is the female version of Entourage.
That's so funny. Okay, so we're talking about the Katie, Lala, Ariana, Scheana scene now. The walk up. So you thought Entourage. So I thought like Mean Girls, Clueless. That's what I thought, but you thought Entourage. You know, I absolutely Entourage.
Mean Girls Clueless is more like innocent to me, I think, whereas like Entourage, like they're walking in.
Innocent, Mean Girls.
I mean, the cinematic tone is like just darker and.
All right.
Yeah.
So they walk in very they're trying to edit like this. But to me, when you see that scene, that's a perfect example of how we thought the season was going to be, the girls like sticking together. And that's not what's happening. And this next scene is a great indicator of that. And it's sad.
So Lala brings up Katie's date with Tori from the day before where they talked about Bob Ross and all that, and they painted, and says it can't be any weirder than banging his best friend about Schwartz. So like throwing a dig in there. And Katie's like, Tequila Katie's a hoe. And I just love her.
So then she says he can have Joe, that there's no competition there. And they all laugh. Like Lala's laughing at these things, and she's just hanging out with Joe also. But that's when Lala tells Katie that she had a lunch date at the hot dog stand with Joe. And Katie's like, are you just now going to tell me this? And Ariana says, babe, spill the tea. Like, what the heck? Like, you can tell Ariana is very shocked by this, just as shocked as Katie is. And Lala,
I mean, I think the whole audience was shocked watching it.
yeah. Lala's like, yeah, I'm just now telling you. So Katie asks how it happens. And Lala says she apparently wanted to share her side of things. But the biggest point is this. Katie says, you don't have any relation to this girl. You don't know this girl. This girl is nothing to you. I'm something to you. So why are you going to feel bad for this chick? And it's true. I get it. You can be kind to somebody and, feel a certain way. But for her to do this without telling Katie, to me, was wrong. You can go do something that you feel you need to do, but out of loyalty to your friends, I personally think it would be nice to let them know up front. That's how I roll. So for people who don't do that and do things behind your back without telling you, and really, she's basically talking about Katie inadvertently with the conversation with Joe. Not even inadvertently, they're talking. So it just feels wrong to me to not have that conversation with your friend. I don't know. What do you think? Do you?
Yeah. I mean, Lala knows.
Think?
Yeah, Lala knows how Katie feels about Joe. She knows what that dynamic's like. She knows that, and she knows that she's going to have this lunch date. And how does she not know in the back of her mind that this might look weird or bad? And why wouldn't she then just tell Katie, like, hey, I'm going to go film with Joe?
It's her
like
ex.
You're going behind Katie's back and you're hiding something by not bringing to light something that you know is going to bother Katie.
Right. And also, she's not even thinking about Ariana, because Joe went to that Big Bear trip. Oh, by the way, guys, I did find the pictures of Big Bear. I was looking for the pictures that I had found from Facebook of when Raquel, Joe, Schwartz, and Sandoval were in Big Bear. I had found them on some random Facebook page back last March 2023.
How do you find everything?
This was before I even had the account. It was like the day after Scandal broke. I just started looking.
You just find it all?
No, I don't just find it all. I mean, I was just like, I was on Facebook. I think I had read that they went on a trip, and then I think I looked in I don't know, something weird like that.
Yeah.
So they.
Oh, I didn't think of that. That Ariana is feeling some type of way towards Joe also because of.
Yeah, she said that. She's like, she spent time with us for Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, they went.
That didn't click for me for some reason until just now.
So Big Bear was January 2023. Tom said he tried to break up with Ariana in February of 2023. They went to Big Bear, Tom, Raquel, and Joe.
Wow.
That's a fucking double date. Don't even act like it's not.
In January of that year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't act like that's not a double date. And in December, the month before, is when Rachel went to, not San Diego, St. Louis, right?
Meet me in St. Louis.
With Sandoval.
Yes.
To meet his family. It's so gross. This is so gross. So like Joe acting like she doesn't know that there were, like, you cannot be that smitten kitten with Schwartz to not know what was going on.
Yeah,
I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I do feel bad for her in many ways. I'm not buying that she didn't know. I'm just not.
That's my problem with Joe. It's like when this stuff comes up, like you're like, she's in the wrong here. And then you feel bad for her in certain scenes with Schwartz. And it's like, you have this back and forth, and I don't know what to think of her.
She definitely lies. She absolutely lies. This is what I've come to. I've come to this understanding that she is a liar. There's too many people who say she lies for her to not be a liar. You identify liars because they lie.
Yeah.
There's too many people calling her a liar.
Yeah.
But so Lala doesn't even see the tears in Katie's eyes, that Katie is upset about this. And Katie's upset about this. Like, it's your ex who she went to go hang out with right after you broke up, snuck her way in through the haircuts, and bam. By the way, I know I repeat some of this with M, so some people are going to hear a little bit of repetition there, but it's a different conversation with you.
You know what? Yeah. You
What?
know what hit me in that scene?
What?
And I think actually you posted a video about this.
What?
Lala, the way she's treating Katie there was very triggering to Katie, but very similar to how she was treated by Schwartz.
Yes.
Not being put first, not being thought of. Like,
Yeah.
and she says to Lala, "You're not close with her. You're close with me. Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah. There are so many exactly. There are so many parallels. That was the video. And then a lot of people saw that video, actually. I think some of them saw that video as well. I can't remember who saw it now. Oh, I think Jody saw it. I know Katie saw it too. But there are things that are exactly the same. Schwartz, Katie would always have to say to Schwartz, but what about me? Like, I'm your person. I'm the person you should have loyalty to. You should care about how I feel, not what this random person feels, like how I feel. And now she's having to say the same thing to Lala. Like, but why don't you care about how I feel, this person? Yeah.
Katie's not in the wrong here. But I am looking forward to Katie apologizing next episode, probably to Lala for
He's
her
making
response.
a joke. He's being sarcastic. Yeah.
Katie always ends up apologizing for things. How many scenes have we watched where we're like, why is Katie apologizing?
So
here?
many scenes. She better not. I don't think she's going to apologize for this one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe she'll be like, sorry, but I don't think you should have, rather than Lala being like, sorry, I should have considered your feelings in this and thought about you more and all of that. Now, what I did hear, what you guys might not know, is that there's some information that they cut a lot out of this scene. And there were some people saying online that Ariana was not defending Katie. They felt Ariana was not defending Katie. However, apparently they cut a lot out where Ariana was defending Katie. And I think you can clearly see it in her face. Ariana defends people often. Ariana is very much, and she's been this through the years, she's very much a person to speak up when she thinks something is not right. So for this whole narrative too from Lala recently to be like, she's not a good friend to people, or, Lala was recently just saying like, Sandoval talked bad to her. When does she defend me? That is not true. She defended you many times, Lala, many time.
Yeah.
And she's talked about how Sandoval shouldn't be yelling at the girls. And she talked about how she's not doing this with Sandoval. She's not doing this again. And she told Tom, like, Tom, shut up, be quiet. Like, this is ridiculous. Against Katie, against Lala, against mostly Katie and Lala, now that I think about it. Lala is acting like Ariana doesn't do that. Where the fuck are you getting that from?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was editing there that was pulling things out.
Yeah, you know where she's getting that from? I'll tell you where Lala is getting that from. She's getting that from because of what we talked about before. She wants to make Ariana look like the bad guy right now.
She wants a reaction.
Take her down a notch from this pedestal that she feels that Ariana is on.
Yeah.
I can't imagine ever like taking my friend
down a
notch. You can still want things that somebody has, but be so happy for them. You know what I mean?
You can help take your friend down a notch when they're doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
Slow it down. You're being a little sporadic here.
Yeah.
But when they're being successful and achieving good things, you should be supportive.
And we said this last time, the whole ego thing too. Like Lala bringing up the whole ego thing. She literally got those words from Schwartz from the first episode. I did check back. And then, who we all know, that Schwartz absolutely got those words from Sandoval. And I forgot, on the after show, Ariana and Katie were like, that sounds like Sandoval to me. I forgot that they said that. That was totally Sandoval. This whole ego thing stemmed from Sandoval putting all the little pieces out there. That's what they do. That's what those narcissists do.
Yeah. And actually, that was at the beginning of the season. And we've seen a different Schwartz now where he started to distance himself a little bit more and not get involved.
Which, guys, real time, present today, Schwartz is distancing himself, because even at Coachella, Sandoval didn't go to Coachella. Schwartz is at Coachella. Schwartz has got a Patron deal. Sandoval doesn't have a Patron deal. Did you know that?
I saw the video. Cafe Patron, he was holding the bottle up. Yeah.
One of my faves.
Yeah.
He has a Patron deal. If you're going to have a deal, to me, Patron, that's a deal. That's a cool deal. Patron, that's my favorite.
And again,
and I love it to tequila.
I was just going to say tequila, back to Tequila Katie.
Where's Katie? I want Katie to have a Patron deal.
If anyone should have a Patron deal, it's Katie. Patron, call Katie.
No, for real. Let's put that
No,
out
for
there.
real.
Why isn't a tequila sponsoring Katie?
Yeah.
What, Katie?
Katie, I didn't even think of that.
She tells Katie that Schwartz gave Joe her name to reach out. And Katie says, why? And Lala goes, because I'm soft right now, Katie.
So soft in the delivery, too.
Because I'm so, I love how she's trying to force this soft era thing.
She's in her soft era.
She also would talk, because I used to love even more her Amazon lives, and she would talk about like how soft she was. And I believed it until I saw it. But she was so soft, and she's wearing soft makeup and soft clothing, and this is why she wears like a lavender like prom type dress to the reunion to be soft. You know, she's pregnant. Well, not at this point. She's pregnant now, so like. Some people are like, give her a break. She's pregnant to other people. And I always think you should give pregnant people a break. But we're talking about this point of the show, and she's not pregnant here. She's going through fertility. But I didn't backstab people and do all that when I was pregnant. Was I hormonal? Sure. Not so hormonal, though. It's actually pretty nice when I was pregnant. Oh, in the beginning, the first weeks 4 and 5, I remember. Before I knew I was pregnant, I was like, what the frick is wrong with me? And then I got the test.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like prego brain stuff. This is like she's making calculated moves, I think.
Yeah, it's calculated moves. Good point. So then Lala says that she sees her friend calling Joe a crackhead. And again, Katie made an off-the-cuff comment, I think, in that moment. But Katie's like, you're basically just saying, like, you're trying to villainize me right now. And she's like, it's just not making sense. And Lala says, I don't care. It's not my job for my life to make sense to you. But it's Ariana's job to make her life make sense to you, and you're questioning Ariana's everything?
Yeah.
Make that make sense.
Yeah. How is that any different?
How is that any fucking different? Hypocritical.
Yeah.
Hip hop? Hypocritical?
Hip hop? Well, I mean, it's Lala deflecting in this scenario to almost validate her meeting with Joe to get that extra screen time, I think, and making Katie look like the bad guy.
Yeah, if you haven't listened before, we know that Lala is she's getting screen time with Joe, screen time with Schwartz, little dates with Schwartz, screen time with Sandoval, screen time with Katie, screen time with Scheana, screen time with Ariana. She's getting screen time with everyone. She is working her way into everybody.
Yeah.
Working her way into those scenes.
Yeah. Next week, she has a scene with Laura Lee.
Laura Lee's coming back?
Yeah.
Oh.
Laura Lee and Lala are going to go get some burgers.
Talk about Jax?
Yeah.
How she was wronged by Jax?
Yeah.
And then that's how she's going to work her way onto the valley.
Yeah.
It's actually a good idea. We should put that out there.
Wait, the Jax thing, just a quick comment. That scene, Jax was such an asshole to go with Laura Lee to her AA meeting and break up with her at the meeting. He's such an ass.
Yeah, he's terrible.
I'm sorry. That's horrible. I just had to.
You don't even know the new Jax stuff that came out. You'll see on the next episode. So spoiler alert if you don't want to know this next episode. But there's also been interviews about it. Like, he basically was making her feel bad about her looks and her weight and things like that. And that's why they haven't been like intimate. No, this is part of why they've been having their problems.
With Brittany, not Laura Lee. Okay. I'm still thinking Laura Lee.
No, Brittany.
He's talking about Laura Lee.
Who the frick knows? Who the frick knows? No, Brittany. So, yeah, it's bad.
All right.
We're supposed to talk Valley. I promised these people an episode of Valley. I don't know what the frick we're doing. I feel so bad. Remind me to never make promises like that.
That episode's stuck in the Valley.
Yeah, it got too crazy because M was out, and just it was a lot of work for the week, and I couldn't get it together. I'm gonna try to talk to Valley at some point during this one, but again, don't hold me to it because there's a good chance we won't.
Okay.
We'll figure out. We'll work the Valley, and so we talk about the Valley, but I'm saying like I wanted to do
like an actual recap. Yeah.
Okay. So back to the biz. So Katie says, I like people who are consistent. Yes, me too, Katie. Totally agree. I like people who are consistent. And Lala's like, you weren't best friends with Joe. You weren't best friends with Raquel. You're hiking onto it real tight. At some point, you got to let it go. I wish you the best. Hope all is well with you. So I get her point. Like, you weren't the closest with these people, but these people still upset her. And like, as her friend, be nice, bitch. Oops. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
You can't invalidate someone's feelings because you feel like they shouldn't be feeling a certain way.
Oh my God.
And that's what Lala's doing here.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Right.
on to the next scene. The big one, the Mondrian.
You call this a big one?
Well, I think there were a lot of things that stood out to me in this scene.
It's so interesting because we always see some things, not always.
Not always. No one's going to know that reference.
No, some people will.
The Room.
Yeah, I have some people who messaged me on Instagram because I had that one video I did. If you have never seen the movie The Room, it's the greatest, worst movie ever made. And they made the movie about it called, what's it called? The Escape Artist? The Disaster Artist.
The Disaster
James
Artist.
Franco's in it. And it literally, this guy wanted to make a movie and he had no acting skill. And he just made this movie, just like a pure.
His goal was to just be famous and make a movie, and he funded it himself. And it was just.
But it's so hysterical.
Oh, those scenes are so awkward.
So cringe. You might have to forward some of them because they're so cringe.
And so long.
They're so long. There's so many good quotes for the movie, though. And one of them is, not always.
He's talking to Lisa. Like, Lisa, you always do this. Not always.
Yeah.
And she's like, what does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. What is he talking about?
Lisa, you always do this. Not always. So funny.
And you can tell it's edited and the cutting, like the editing is so bad and there's so many cuts. It's horrible.
So bad.
But it's so good.
So good. What were we talking about?
I don't even know. Oh, the Mondrian.
No, but I was trying to say we often, and I said always by accident, we often find different scenes that are like the more interesting or better scene. Like to me, the girl scene at dinner was like or the girl scene sitting down. But for you, the Mondrian stood out.
The Mondrian, yeah, like
right, so
really
talk
stood
about
out
it.
for me. So it comes in.
I mean, it is interesting. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it was a good scene. I mean, Schwartz walks in, he takes his hat off and says, he's really feeling the Kenergy right now. So he's owning that Ken look. And right away we see Joe going to fix his hair. Actually,
she doesn't take her hands off.
What was the? I didn't understand. She goes, no nails, like before she fixes his hair. What does that mean?
He probably doesn't like the feeling or something.
Of like
he touches the nails. Yeah.
The nails,
I mean, she's constantly touching his hair. We go nuts.
I mean, so they go from the bar. Now they're sitting down with Tom, Craig, and Kyle. And
who tells her to stop touching the hair? Was it Kyle?
Well, so she's touching his hair for what it seems like 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm sitting there.
It seems like 2 or 3 hours.
It's bothering me just watching it, and then finally he kind of turns to her like, "All right, stop." And she's, it's my work. I just want to make sure it's good.
Yeah.
And then
I'm sorry, you don't own somebody's hair. This is not your work anymore.
No, not at all. And Joe kind of makes this comment of, "Oh, I love it. It's so sexy." So Joe says, "Okay, you're going to make it look bad," because then Schwartz, adjusted himself again. And then it cuts to Kyle. You can see Kyle's face, and he says, "That's not going to get him any girls."
Yeah.
Sitting there and constantly fixing his hair.
Well, you can tell by Kyle's face and Sandoval's face, but Kyle's face that it's like you can read that he knows what she's doing. To me, that's what I was feeling. Like Kyle was like, you're literally just trying to be all over him.
Yeah.
Because you don't want him to get any girls.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing.
Well, even the comment where Joe says, someone brings up Tori, and Tom had mentioned he went on a date with Tori, and then Joe goes, "Yeah, she's weird," or "That girl's weird," or something.
Oh.
And then it cuts to Kyle's face again. Kyle's looking like,
yes, I forgot.
Like, oh, she's the weird one?
Yeah.
And that's what Kyle's face said to me.
And we're acting like Joe's so sweet, and then she's calling this girl weird, and she's calling, like, you know what I mean? Like, so she's saying that Katie's not nice for not liking her. But then she is calling Tori weird. Do you get my point?
Has Tori done anything weird?
No. She's like, I don't think so. And so, what? Like, it's just so fake. The whole, like, oh, they're mean girl things. But then you're saying something that's mean about somebody else who you don't even know. Don't even start with me. I'm getting pissed off as I'm talking right now. I am. Because it's making me realize. Again, I keep going back and forth. I feel bad for her. I don't feel bad for her. But like that's a mean comment.
It is. I don't have a read on Joe yet. I keep going back and forth. This whole scene was all over the place for me because we had Tom setting it up that he's bringing a kick-ass chick. Joe's all over him. And then you got Sandoval jumping in and asking, "You guys are both single, right?" About getting the green wristbands.
Is that what he did?
Yeah. And Tom said, yeah, definitely. Actually, What Tom did say, which kind of stood out to me, is he said no 100%. And I think we mentioned this on the last podcast, where I think when someone's almost trying to convince themselves of what they're saying, they start by saying the opposite. And then
Did we talk about this?
in the last podcast we talked about with I don't remember what it was now. It was something that Tom had said.
Because somebody brought up to me also that he shook his head.
Oh, it was when
Did
Scheana,
you notice that he shook his head? Because somebody brought that up to me. Maybe like
About
the men
Schwartz?
noticed this more, because it was a man who said it to me.
right
that-
away picked it up. He said no 100%. Because Tom asked the question, you guys are both
Right.
single, right? And Schwartz, no, 100%.
Right. No, but I'm saying in the last episode when Schwartz was sitting down, or was it this episode when Schwartz is sitting down with, oh, it might be this episode. All right, I'll wait to talk about it. Sorry. You might have noticed it in this episode then. Because a guy actually messaged me about something he noticed from Schwartz, what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Saying yes to something, but then his body language saying no.
Yeah.
So which is like the same kind of thing you're saying.
Similar,
That's
yeah.
interesting. I love that.
Yeah, so that like, for whatever, like that really stood out to me. And then Joe also saying, well, Joe said yes after she looked at Schwartz and realized what his response was. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it goes back to the whole like mixed signals. What is going on here? You have Tom,
balls in here right now.
you have Tom and Kyle both understanding that Schwartz is not with Joe. You have Kyle making comments like, you got to always not be so around Joe. Like, how are you going to get any girls?
Yeah.
So it's almost like his friends know behind the scenes that he's not with Joe, but he's kind of leading Joe on a little bit. I mean, they're living together and all this and giving her mixed signals.
You think his friends know that? Because I'm
and I
reading
think his
it a little
friends know,
differently.
like Tom saying, you guys are single, right? And even in the confessional, Tom goes, Joe and Schwartz are on two different pages. Joe's looking at their situationship as a glass half full relationship, and Schwartz is just being Schwartz and is going to give off mixed signals. It's part of like his superpower. He's so charming all the time.
But you think that the guys, his guy friends, know that he's giving mixed. Okay.
I think his guy friends, what I picked up from that scene, Sandoval and Kyle both know off camera that Joe is just a side piece for Schwartz.
Oh, right. Okay. Because I take it as they're looking at as she's not taking the hint.
No,
and
because
that
I feel like
she's
he is
trying to be
giving her
nice.
hints when he's not with the guys, right? I think.
No, I know, but I think that they look at as she's not taking the
Oh,
hint.
absolutely, yeah. Which is why they're probably more like
yeah, that's what I'm
dismissive
saying.
of her.
I
yeah.
think that there's two. Yeah. I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think the truth is that he is telling her these flat out things, but is somewhat giving her mixed signals because he doesn't really know how he should feel. He doesn't want to lose her friendship. He doesn't want to lose her relationship, kind of like how it was with Katie a little bit, unfortunately. And I think he's giving her mixed signals, but also telling her factually, like, I want to be dating, because she didn't seem completely surprised by that information, like in that final scene at the end. Like, I do think he's saying, like, but I'm not ready to be in like a solid relationship. And that's where it's confusing her, but also she has to me, I think it's the whole, like, he's just not that into you. It could be for a guy or a girl, whatever. If he is not committed to you fully, you need to respect yourself more as a woman and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where I'm like, Joe, if he is giving you mixed signals and telling you he'll hang out with you, but then saying he also does really want to be single, you have to get out of there, Joe. Get out of there.
And I mean, that's what we see in the final scene.
It's almost like enabling each other's bad behavior in ways.
Yeah. And then they're just feeding off of that with each other.
Yeah. The girl hooks up with Schwartz. Very awkward kiss. She messaged me. I have to get information from her. She went to
Gabby
Coachella.
messaged you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
It's funny that you knew her name from the thing. Yeah, because I told you she messaged me last, or I messaged with her
Oh,
last year.
yes, that's right.
Because I posted her and I asked if she wanted to be tagged, because I don't like posting people. I'll erase their name if they don't want it,
Yeah. Oh, what stood out to me in that scene was when she asked Schwartz for the hat. He was hesitant.
Okay.
Said, okay, but I need it back. It's very sentimental.
I need to know the full story with the hat.
Right away, Joe kind of saw what was going on there. She came over and said, oh, no, you don't, that's your only one. You can't get that away. And he's like, no, I got more in storage. And Joe goes, oh, okay. And then she just goes, woo. Like,
yeah.
Like just like an awkward, like, woo, all right, I'm leaving. Like, I'm still the cool chick, woo, and I'm leaving. Like, what is she doing?
Yeah.
And then it cuts to later where Schwartz is like, kissing the girl, and she's got her hand on his neck, and Joe kind of comes around the corner. The way she was walking was very like awkward. Like, what is she doing? She goes, what in tarnation?
Yeah, I felt like that's where I felt bad for her. But she said
felt really bad for her there.
Yeah,
I felt really bad.
I know.
And then she just like left because it's just like
I know.
You see the person that you have feelings for, and we find out about that at the end of the show that she has those feelings, and almost like that was a moment of clarity for her. Right. I think
it's not like you can't feel bad for people who do things that aren't good. Like I still am like I don't think she's innocent. I think that whatever. I think she does lie about things, but I also feel bad because I think she actually like loved the guy. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, I was looking into my phone archives. I got a lot of. My husband knows. Keep needing more storage.
Receipts, screenshots,
proof timeline.
Proof timeline.
There was a video that Joe had posted, and it was one of the videos that she had taken down of her and Tom. But she posted when Tom was like fully out there in a relationship with the girl Sophia, his new girlfriend. And it's like a really,
Was it the post where she talked about how amazing Tom was?
One of them.
Or is, right?
Yeah. And like the whole post is like pictures of them together with like some like sweet music in the background. And you don't do that, Joe. You don't do that.
Did she post that after the reunion?
I don't know if that one was after the reunion or before. I have to go look at the date. I think it was March. I don't remember.
And she removed the post?
Yes, because he tells her to remove them. Yeah. I have it. Other people, people have them because people screenshot these shits. As soon as I see something goes up, beep, record, beep, because I know you're probably going to delete that.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to record it.
Yeah.
But I don't always share it because sometimes I feel bad. Like, because she deleted it, I was like, I'm not going to share this,
But you have it in case
you need it. But I have it in case I need it.
Yeah. You have it in case you need it. Do not ever cross reality ops.
All right, stop. All right. He means me as a person, by the way. He doesn't even mean just reality ops. You mean me as a person. Like, I always keep receipts for every single thing.
We had to upgrade your iPhone because you had
That's what I said 2 minutes ago. You didn't hear that part?
Oh, I was
zoned out?
I guess I was zoned out. Wait, you really just said that?
I just said I needed more storage because I save everything.
That's like my ADHD kicking in. I wasn't listening.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for finding what I said important. All right. And we do talk about this with M, so I'm not going to get into this too much, but there's the whole wristband debacle of what color wristband are you wearing? And
Okay. Stay tuned to the end.
Yeah. All right.
So, that's how you get the listeners to keep listening.
I know you told them last time, and then I cut.
Big reveal at the end. Listen to the whole episode.
You don't have to do that. It's not like TikTok. We talked about this last time.
I know. I don't know why I do it.
All right.
Like and subscribe.
All right. Last scene is paintball. And to be honest, I couldn't give two shits about it.
Second to last scene.
You could talk about it. All right. Second to last scene.
Paintball. Do you know what stood out to me as someone who's gone paintballing before?
What?
That Brock is showing up in a t-shirt and shorts. Not just shorts, the shortest shorts. Because paintballs hurt. Oh my God. I mean, I went when I was a teenager, but like they hurt. If you get hit on your bare skin with a paintball, you're going to get a bruise.
That's why Sandoval shows up like RoboCop?
Yeah, I mean, Sandoval's, yeah. Well, he's got that special forces training, so he knows all the gear that he should be having. But like Brock showing up, it's like almost no one warned him. At least wear pants. And then you got Scheana showing up ready for a club with her.
I would be Scheana.
Crop top.
She's like, was she wearing a crop top? I didn't realize she was wearing a crop top.
Of course, she always wears a crop top.
True.
She's like, is there a VIP bathroom? First of all, does she get VIP bathrooms everywhere she goes?
Yeah. I had no idea this was outdoors. I assumed we'd be like indoor, AC, more of a laser tag situation.
I would be Scheana.
Kid's birthday. Do you want pizza or a hot dog? Like, what is she talking about?
Is that what she said?
No, she didn't say that part. But like, that's like the vibe I was getting. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, the girls, they're just there to film. That's all they're there for. Sandoval's there to not invite Ariana to something. You know what I mean? This is like Sandoval's thing where he doesn't invite Ariana. I did not like, though, again, hold on. What did Scheana say here that was funny about the 20?
Well, Lala had said that.
What did she say?
Yeah, it's a weird group there. There's 12-year-olds and there's 23-year-olds. And I was just talking to a 23-year-old that said Sandoval's friend.
They hung out with
And they hung
Sandoval.
out or whatever.
And Scheana's like, well, Tori's 24.
She was 24 and I hang out with her.
Yeah.
And Mom was like, yeah, that's weird. Okay, and then the girls talk about Joe, but we've went into that enough. I think we fully covered our bases with the way Lala was with Joe.
Final scene was Joe at Schwartz's. And now this was, again, sad to watch Joe be so upset. Even though we have our feelings towards her, she was like heartbroken. And it was sad. And it was real. It felt real. When she left and she was like, I'm going to call my dad. I felt really bad.
Yeah, I really felt for Joe in this scene. And I felt like it was genuine and she was being vulnerable and she was being honest with Schwartz. I think that was a moment where all the events leading up to this sort of clicked for her and she realized she's in this situation with someone that is leading her on. And it's not going to end the way she's expecting and she's getting feelings for him.
And it's interesting, she does tell him in the beginning when he says something and she's like, but, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So, these guys should just think that like girls are like so cool and whatever, and they got to find somebody else who's so cool. Listen, at some point, girls have enough and they're going to talk back to you.
Yeah.
So just know for your future, is Joe maybe a pick me and whatever cool now? I'm just saying, I know it's not working out with Joe,
Yeah,
but if he had picked Joe, eventually you were going to get those same conversations that you find difficult with Katie. You're going to have the same kind of conversations with Joe, because at some point shit gets real and you need to be real with your partner. And if you're going to act like everything's cool right from the beginning, it's going to be even more of a shock to your partner when you act totally different later on. So I felt like that was, I liked seeing her telling him to shut the fuck up.
I loved it. I loved it because he started going down his normal sort of list of just trying to talk his way out of a situation, I felt like.
Yeah.
But he did acknowledge in that situation that he didn't realize he was sending her mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Which I think he did realize it, but or mixed signals. Yeah. I think, again, he was just trying to sort of talk his way out of the situation there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Think she planned to blow that bird whistle like right at the time he was walking in?
I don't know. What did she do?
Production, let me know when he's about to walk in, and I'm going to blow this bird whistle.
I get
like he walked into that.
She's hanging out in that apartment. She's living there at this time. I thought she wasn't living there. I was confused about that.
I don't know. She was there hanging out, blowing a bird whistle, and he walks in with a smoothie or whatever in his hand.
So weird. Did he have a smoothie for her?
No, he just had one. I don't know if it was a smoothie or a coffee, or he had something in his hand that he was drinking.
Like if you're living with somebody, like, I don't know, like us, if you come in with a Starbucks, you come in with a Starbucks for me. If I come in with a Dunkin', I come in with a Dunkin' for you.
Oh, yeah.
Even in college, like if I went to Starbucks and my best friends, my roommates were home, I'd be like, what do you want from?
Oh, yeah. Those are the best times. When someone brings you a Starbucks.
Yeah. I feel like that's a showing of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't walk in with one cake pop. I walk in with 2 cake pops.
Well, you actually walk in with 3 cake pops.
Well, I purchased 4. I have a couple on the way over.
Do you or not?
There have been times where
I knew it.
Well,
you want to tell them what you did that one time with the ice cream?
You want to get into that?
Yeah, I'll never forget
the
it.
cookie dough that we had left?
No, it was half-baked.
Half-baked?
I'm not going to forget it. Yeah.
The Ben & Jerry's half-baked, if you haven't had it, it's probably the best ice cream ever. And it's been our ice cream since we started dating. We're always getting it.
Yeah.
I, before work one day, I may have finished the half-baked on a wafer cone on my drive to the office. And I think you had asked later that night, let's have some half-baked. I said, oh, it's gone.
But here's the thing. They need to know. Our special thing is always sit down on Saturday or Sunday, or not Friday. Usually not Friday. It's usually Saturday or Sunday.
Well, because Friday is I'm falling asleep.
Giant sundae. A giant sundae of ice cream. And we enjoy those things together.
Yeah.
Not that you can't have your own ice cream together. Go get your own ice cream. This is our ice cream.
Yes.
But you had it on the way to work. And I was so excited to go to the fridge and get the ice cream. And you ate it on the way to work.
Yeah. And I've never made that mistake again.
You know what year that was?
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you know the date and the time.
No, about what year it was? It was 2010.
2010?
That's how far back the pain goes.
Well, I'm going to say it's about
14 years of pain.
Right before we got married. And you still married me after that.
No, but remember in the last episode we were talking about how I bring up old things. I don't really do that anymore, but the ice cream will always hit hard.
Yeah.
Because I was really excited for that ice cream.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we live by a Wawa. All right. So then they're sitting on the couch, and that's when it like really comes to a head, I guess. And that's when her emotion really
She has that
Comes
realization.
out.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Did you notice anything on the couch? That's what I was saying before that somebody brought up. Schwartz doing something but saying something different.
On the couch.
Yeah.
Did not.
All right, here. Watch this scene. It's right here.
Okay, so you just showed me the scene, and he does the same thing. I don't know why I didn't catch that before. He does the same thing that he did at the Mondrian, but instead of saying no, he kind of shook his head quickly and said 100%.
So do you think that's a thing? Because he saw that, you see it. I don't really. To me, he's just shaking his head like 100%. But is that how you read it?
I don't know if I would have read it that way, but I'm wondering if it's the same. I'm no
The
expert
same
on.
idea.
I'm no expert on body
Okay,
language.
so what I know from body
but-
language, because I'm studying it with Johnny Depp case, the body language experts would say that obviously that's an indicator of deceit. However, if it's normal for a person to do that, that's different. So if it's something that's like something that they always do, they typically, like for instance, I say no a lot before I say yes. So I'll be like, no, I agree. Like that's my normal, I forgot what the word, it's like my baseline. That's what they call it. Well, I don't know if it's his baseline to do that, but yeah, this person noticed it and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, interesting. Because it's the same response. It just, instead of him saying no, he kind of shook his head.
When she says, I think we could grow old together and be like disgusting, cute and old and whatever. And he's like 100%, but
yeah. She's like, don't you agree? And he shook 100%. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know.
Didn't pick up on that. I think his response and the energy he was giving back to her, even in that scene, was very like, I'm kind of just here. Yeah. We're just chilling, and she's really starting to open up some more and break down that I think feelings.
Because he seems so uncomfortable is why I think that it's not just him misleading her. Like I really think it's like we said, she's not accepting of the boundaries and that he's not wanting to be in a relationship. But anyway,
are they living together at this point?
I'm so confused about the timeline.
Because I mean, if you're living together, that's like another. Why are they living together if he doesn't want them to be together? That's also leading her on.
Right. There's also the thing about her going to Florida to meet his family that's confusing. So did she invite herself again or I would love to come with you? And he was just like, oh. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who knows? Or was he like, I'd love you to meet my family?
Yeah.
All right.
In the confessional where she said they told each other they loved each other. Do you believe that?
Okay, that's a good question. Do I believe that they told each other they loved each other? I do, but I don't know if it's like, I'm in love with you. I think it's more, I love you as a person, but I don't know.
Schwartz like, Joseph, I love you, Joseph. Like, as opposed to saying like,
I can't picture him being like, I love you so much. Like that.
Yeah.
Or like having an intimate moment and being like, I love you.
Like, yeah, I love being together. I love being around you. And she just picks it up as like that.
But like if they did say real I love yous, then that's really fucked up and that's really confusing. And that's truly him leading her on a lot. Because if you say I love you, that's not even leading somebody on. It's just you're on with them.
But then at the end she says, which is sad, that she doesn't care what he says, but he's her favorite person in the world and she just wants him to be happy and she thinks the world of him. So she continues with that and she still says that in her confessional that she still thinks he's the best person.
Yeah.
She's pretty infatuated with him.
Yeah. I mean, that's clearly what it is.
Yeah. All right. Now, recap done.
Recap done.
You will be back at the end to close up the episode. And if there's any like last minute news, we will put it there. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
We're just going to take a quick break and give a shout out to Draw Me Bitch, the person who did our podcast artwork, who is amazing. Please check her out on Instagram and on TikTok. She also has her website, shopmebitch.com, where you can buy coloring books, stickers, gifts for all things Bravo. But she now has a subscription on her page, which gets you access to weekly Vanderpump coloring pages. Definitely go check her out. You will not regret it. And I also would like to give a shout out to our friend Peyton. She is Glorified Gossip Girl on Instagram. Right now, her account is down because of weird rules that don't make sense. So please go follow her back up at Glorified Gossip Girl, but with a U for the girl. And she also is Glorified Vintage Girl. She does amazing work. A lot of Bravo Lebs wear her and order from her, including Ariana Maddox, Danielle Rivera, Katie Maloney. Go check her out and support her. Her website is on her IG page, or it's www.distressedout.myshopify.com. She is a super hard worker. She's great at what she does, and she's an amazing person as well. So 2 fabulous girls to check out. And now back to the pod. Okay, so we are back for our Vanderpump/Valley news of the week, and we are so happy because we have M joining us again.
I am so happy to be back. So happy. The last few weeks have been a little bit tumultuous, definitely going through some life changes and things like that. But I know everything will become settled eventually. But I am really excited to be recording today and just chatting about everything that we both love to chat about together.
Yeah, so M is going to be recording with us or me whenever she's able to, but because she is, like she said, trying to settle things right now, we're just going to do what she can for her schedule. But me and my husband will be making sure we put episodes out each week, and M will either be doing the full episode with me or part of the episode with me until it's settled. That sounds about right?
Yeah, that sounds spot on for the craziness that is my life. Yeah.
Okay, so we had so much news though, and we really do have a lot to go over. For today's news portion, we're going to talk a lot about Rachel's podcast and Joe being on the podcast. We're going to talk about Jax and Brittany and Scheana. We're going to talk about the reunion and what we really think is going to happen based on all our clues, which are a lot. So spoiler alert for that section. If you don't want to hear what is very likely to happen, don't listen to that part. If you're excited for that part, you'll hear it. We will, of course, talk about Lala because how could you not, among other things. I just want to say, too, and when we go over the news, we're going to talk quite a bit about speech therapy and babies and teaching. So when we get to that section about Jax and Brittany and Cruz, if you guys want, you can just listen to that news part and then fast forward to the next section. That's why we have the little titles there for you so that you can go to different chapters because we talk about it a lot. So if you're interested in that topic, you might want to hear it. And if not, you can skip ahead. So let's start. And I think we need to start with Rachel's podcast because I know we both have a lot of thoughts. We wanted to share the information. What did you want to say initially about that? You wanted to talk about the Joe one, right? Because there's been a lot, but let's talk about how she had Joe on her podcast.
Yes, definitely. I mean, okay, so I, just like you, obviously, our listeners, I think they know by now, we try to be very, very fair, unbiased, see things from a bunch of different perspectives. It's just sometimes so difficult to listen to Rachel Goes Rogue because I feel like there are so many hypocritical things said. Sometimes I question the management, like who is managing this podcast. There's so many contradictions. So when she had Joe on, again, this week in Vanderpump Rules, we see, the fallout between Joe and Schwartz. And I have my own thoughts about that relationship. But we also saw the previous week, the girls at Hotel Ziggy, in quotes, bullying her and things like that. And then I just felt like on this episode of Rachel Goes Rogue, Rachel and Joe were kind of mean girls themselves. So it was confusing to listen. Again, I was trying to listen, understand both of their sides, but it was a little frustrating because I'm like, I don't know if you realize in the same breath that you're saying these people were mean girls to you, you've also behaved in that same way. So that was the impression that it left me. The end of that podcast bothered me the most when Rachel said something about integrity. Oh, wow, he didn't have any integrity to let you know. And I was like, isn't that the kettle calling, I'm bad with these.
The pot calling the kettle black. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that
listen earlier to the podcast, which I know you listened to the whole one that I did with my husband, but listen to it. There's a funny one that Hubs got wrong in the last podcast that a listener brought up, and we're going to talk about it in the Vanderpump recap. Just listen to it. All right, the pot calling the kettle black. This is like a Jaxism kind of.
Yes,
Okay,
I love that. Yeah, a Jaxism for sure. Yeah, that was my impression of it. I didn't realize just how close they were either. I feel like they really are very close friends.
Oh my gosh. So,
I mean, she's probably going to be going viral, I would think, in the next few days.
So Rachel's like, he knew you were going to find out eventually. but he didn't have enough integrity to tell you himself. She's like, there it is. Really, Rachel? So, okay, you brought up the unbiased thing. We're unbiased in that we're not wanting to choose somebody over another person. But I will tell you, on the last podcast, somebody said it was really nice to hear you be not as unbiased and just go off about something. And I was like, that's that's where I'm getting, because I'm getting super frustrated. This is an extremely obnoxious thing for her to say. They're acting like Schwartz should be telling Joe, which is absolutely true. But
And that's the other
you
thing I
have
was
a
gonna say, like, I'm not denying that he shouldn't have told
yes,
her, but it's like, hello,
coming from you,
right?
coming from you. Oh my God. What on earth is she thinking? Like, how I don't understand the thought processes that go through her brain to
No, me
just
neither.
it's mind
She
blowing.
said it with conviction, no? Like, and he didn't even have the I'm like, "Wait, what?"
So, and like, oh, how dare he? How dare he? How dare you go on TV and do all this and have an affair with Tom Sandoval behind Ariana's back? What is wrong with you? I don't feel bad for her anymore. I just don't. There was a lawsuit, and then there's everything since. And then when we found out that she encouraged Joe to post the negative thing about Katie and Dana about what they wore on her social media, you are just manipulating things, girl. And I am not here for it.
No,
Okay.
agreed
I
with
would
that.
never. We are 30. Okay. How old is she? 30 now?
I
I'm
think they're the
30.
same age. Yeah, I think she's 30. I think she was born in '94, yeah.
Okay, 30 years old, and you're gonna tell your friend to post something?
That's what I
Yo, that
mean.
shit's
That's
like
like
middle
Mean Girls.
school.
Right, thank you. I was gonna say, like, that's like Mean Girls, like high school drama stuff that you do. Like, I'm genuinely confused by that.
It's
And I'm 30, so I'm saying, like, I don't get that. And I again, age doesn't
no,
necessarily need to matter, but it's just like, wait, aren't we grown though? Like, aren't we thinking before we're doing something like
no.
that? And that in itself is mean and it's hurtful. And I just don't understand Rachel's MO against Katie. You
And they're like,
bullied
"I
her.
made a mistake." That's what she's sorry, "I made a mistake." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, you made a mistake, but we're not gonna forgive Ariana for going off on you at the reunion when you did what you did and just say she was in the heat of the moment. She made a mistake. We should forgive you, Rachel, for all the things that you have done." But when a girl who was completely, basically kind of
Blindsided.
abused,
Yeah.
blindsided by you, that's not a mistake. And now you're suing her. You're suing her, but
I'm
hers
sorry.
wasn't a mistake. You're only yours. You're the only victim.
I'm
You are the only victim, and you are the only bearer of truth, which is complete untruth, in my opinion. There we go. I might edit some out. I might not.
I don't think you should because truly that makes absolutely no sense. Again, I'm going to echo a little bit what you said. Where is the grace for Ariana? Why is Rachel allowed to make mistake after mistake after mistake? But yet she can't say, I could understand where Ariana was coming from when she said the things that she said to me in that moment based off of what had been done. Like every action has a reaction, and that was her reaction. Rachel, you had a reaction clearly. You texted your friend Joe and had her repost something that you knew would hurt someone.
I don't even picture her texting. I picture them like hanging around the computer like
Um,
1994, like hanging around, being like, "Oh my God, look at this article. Post this." That's what I picture
Ooh, I
happening.
actually could see that. Yeah,
And
now
Joe
that you
being
say
like,
it
"I
like
don't
that.
know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't usually do that stuff." And she'd be like, "It'd be funny. I'll repost it."
But
That's
I
what I
just don't
picture.
get it. Like, didn't Rachel hurt Katie enough? She was so rude to Katie last year, to Katie's mom. Like, didn't you already inflict enough damage there? Like, why are you still going? Even in regards to
Well,
the lawsuit and everything too, like with Ariana, like, why are you still doing this and going?
your point about Katie, that it's like, what is her thing against Katie? What did Katie ever do to her before any of this? I'm trying to figure that one out.
I feel like
Does
she's
it make
so consistent with just being like a Katie hater.
And so you guys know she does name Katie in the lawsuit. She points out, or her team or whatever points out how Katie said, "I'm going to light you on fire." And That's in her lawsuit, and then her lawsuits against does. So Katie is named in her lawsuit. She's a possible doe, and then and then you're posting this about Katie. Ugh, nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty.
The nastiness, the rumors, sorry, every time. But yeah, it just
Yeah.
somebody I went live and we listened to Rachel Goes Rogue Monday night, I think. I don't remember what night it was. And then we listened to Kristen's podcast and somebody asked, if you could describe Rachel's podcast, how would you describe it? And I really did sit there and I was mindful about my word choices and I said, it's interesting. It's an interesting listen. Sometimes it's confusing and sometimes it's frustrating. Those were my words
Yeah.
to describe it because it is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what she says is really confusing. Even again, like from the jump, from the genesis of her podcast, she started off by saying like she wanted to be far removed from Vanderpump, but yet I feel like all it's been is about Vanderpump. That's a contradiction.
Right. I feel in her podcast, you get so many different personas from her. And like, I have different, different things come out of me. Like, when I'm teaching, I'm a completely different person. When I'm just being a mom, I'm a completely different person. When I'm
Oh, of
talking
course.
trash TV,
Yeah.
I'm a completely different person who uses more um, vulgar language. But they're all still like they all still hold the same, what's the word,
I was gonna say you still
morals.
have the same like morals and values. That's just code switching. You're just
Right.
adapting to whatever environment.
Right, right. Where she seems like totally different people to me on her different podcasts, and I'm so confused by her.
So
But
that's an interesting grab actually, because I think that she does act differently around different people.
mm, okay,
So, and that could be why each week she has somebody different on,
yeah. She really plays to that sad
like puppy dog
thing.
eyes, I
Yeah,
feel like. And I don't even watch the videos, but I'm just like, that's kind of her like disposition to me. If I was to label it, it would be like, oh, sad puppy dog, you know?
right, when she has, like, therapists on, right?
Like poor me, poor
Where
me. And it's like, no.
my therapists see, like, me, like
Well, that's what
in
frustrated me
in
when she
full
had
form,
the
like,
therapist
every
on.
version of me. They see me each time, um, what's the word? Uninhibited, I guess?
Yeah.
And I know it'd be different, like, if you're on a show, but, like, the whole puppy dog thing that you just said, so true. Alright, we're going off too much, I
Yeah,
think,
sorry,
about
we
this,
are. Yep.
but we did wanna just talk about this more because we haven't been able to talk about this, and it's very it's very interesting. The other thing about Rachel's podcast, though, besides that I wanted to really bring up is Joe. I will say there were parts of the podcast where I was really feeling for Joe, but this is where I think Joe and Rachel are similar. And is it like two peas in a pod? I don't know. Are they similar in that? Because with Joe, sometimes I'm like, oh, she is like harmless. But then other times I'm like, but you can't be harmless if you've done these things. And two, people have been saying that she's a liar. This has come out on several podcasts. Kristen has spoken about this a bunch. And I'm starting to notice some things, and I wanted to bring up something that somebody brought up to me. So on Rachel's podcast, Joe said, and this part was said, and I was totally feeling for her. She said that they had wristbands and they were red, yellow, or green on the night to the singles event. And that on the way to the singles event, what they didn't show on camera was that Schwartz had said to Joe, oh, by the way, she admitted that she invited herself to the singles event because that's how it looked on camera. And that is what happened. Like she basically invited herself, but she thought it was for supporting Tom Sandoval. However, can I ask you this, Em? Didn't they talk in the salon
Thank you.
about,
Okay. Yep.
okay,
No, because same. I was like, wait, you literally had a conversation with him, and the impression I got was he's going to a singles event, period.
it's going to,
Not going to support Sandoval, or I didn't get that impression.
and they talked before about like, so I'm very confused why she thought that they were completely
But
just
again,
together.
maybe at that time, because behind closed doors, when cameras weren't on, they were together. So she maybe didn't assume that he would be going as a single person to the singles event.
Mhm.
And she
I'm
knew,
not
like, when cameras are on, he acts a little bit different, so when he brought it up, she was like, "Yeah, let's go, I'll go too."
I'm not sure though. Do you think he would, so 'cause there's one, he could totally be lying in front of the camera about her and she could be the secret girlfriend, or it could be the way that she perceives things, or she could be making shit up. I'm starting to get the feeling that he's protecting her.
Wait, in what
Like, that
way?
he
In what way is he protecting her?
well, some of the faces that he makes, it seems like he's not okay. You can read the faces he makes in 2 different ways. In one way, I'm reading it and I'm like, "She's Katie 2.0." That's one of the main things I'm reading. And then the other side of me says, or is he protecting her just like he did with Sandoval? Like, he kinda makes similar faces where he's like, "I'm not letting them know that this isn't true," and maybe not letting them know the full truth about Joe to protect her as a person.
Okay.
Um, I think she might have done some more things than we know about, and we've heard about things on different podcasts. People seem to talk about her a lot. I've had some people in my DMs bringing up some things about her. Drunk Drawn, by the way, posted today. Don't Oh, you sent it to me also.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, read it.
So this came wait, it came from Reddit or from Drunk Drawn? Or
It
it was
came from Drunk No, Reddit just reposted it. It came from
okay.
Drunk Drawn. It's on Drunk Drawn's great account on Instagram, by the way. Very talented. They do, caricatures, I guess you can say, or
Yeah, like
artwork of
exaggerated characters.
exaggerated. Some are very controversial, but they're a very interesting account to follow and very talented. But yes, it's on Drunk Drawn, so
Okay, so this comes from Drunk Drawn's Instagram. It says some Joe tea. Okay, so just a little tea. I honestly do feel bad for her right now and the way production dangled her in front of the cast like chum. But an ex of mine from the mid 2010s suddenly began getting weekly haircuts from her in Milwaukee. So naturally, she became a person of interest. He ended up cheating on me with, in quotes, Joseph, real name Kaylee. We broke up and then they moved to LA together to live out some bizarre spiritual journey, similar to what Schwartz said about them going on a journey. I haven't revisited this stuff emotionally for so long, but Vanderpump is my favorite show. And now she's on it? Rude. So Joe's real name is Kaylee. And there was
yeah,
like
so
another cover up thing in the sense of like, she uses that alias because if a guy's texting a Joe, it's a guy, not a girl.
where'd you see that? Reddit?
One of our followers who we both speak with that
Oh, yes.
yes. Or
Okay.
or did I
Oh my
I
god,
read that, so I
stop
read it. Oh, no,
it. The
here it is,
Joe
here it is.
thing is
Um,
so Joe is her middle name. I did do some digging on this, and I did find and verify, yes, Milwaukee. And by the way, they put haircuts in quotes. Weekly, he began getting weekly
you're right.
haircuts from her. And Joe did go to college. Joe is her middle name. Her name is Kaylee, which I love the name Kaylee. I don't know why you would take Joe over Kaylee. That is interesting. It's interesting thought from her. That okay. With this said, right? It's like how she sought out at Schwartz with Katie, like, "Hey, can you let him know? Like, does he need a haircut? Does he need a haircut? That's your way to work your
Right?
way in."
That's her angle. Yeah.
And she went to college. She didn't go to school for hair. So when did she go to school for hair? Have to find that out. Did she even go to school for hair? Gonna find that out.
I don't
You
know.
think she went Do you think she went to school for hair? I mean, look at Schwartz's hair.
I know. Okay, but then
Gonna
I
find
also people in my live the other night were like, she was probably trying to mess up his hair for the singles event so nobody would talk to him.
I know. It was really not good. It was not good.
It was really not good. No, it really wasn't good. And like, I don't know if on purpose her boss, like if production was like, hey, do you want to be in it too? We're using your salon. And that's why the boss
Right.
was like, hey, did you put the tone? But like, oh, also somebody else said she applied the bleach from root to tip. And you're not supposed to do that because if it's on the root for too long, your hair will literally burn off and you'll be bald. So like there
Yeah,
was
they never do root to tip ever.
yeah.
Oh my god, that's so true. And, like, if you're somebody who dyes hair professionally, you should know that. You absolutely should know that.
So there was a lot of like hairstylists and hair people that were really confused by her work and I'm putting work
Huh.
in quotes because some are just stylists. So she might be doing just like wedding hairstyles, updos, things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just started
think?
with like dyeing hair. I don't know.
It seemed like the girl Lena, the other hairstylist there, was like, "What are you doing?" I don't wanna be mean, but at the same time, if she's a liar and a fraud, I wanna find that out.
No,
So we're gonna be
obviously,
looking
yeah.
into it. Let's not all just like assume that she's this, but I do want to say these are things we're thinking about. We're just thinking, and I'm gonna try to find out when she went to cosmetology
Well, I
school.
was gonna say she should have a cosmetology license. She should.
Yeah, I mean, you would think. I'm gonna try to find that shit out. But it definitely does make you wonder, did she do Schwartz's hair like that on purpose when he said, I went on a date last night? You don't know. Okay. So the other thing about Joe. So she said on the podcast that they have the wristbands and that Schwartz had told her on the way there in the car that he was going to be wearing a red or yellow wristband. And she was like, all right, well, I was like kind of okay with the yellow, but I assumed he was going to wear the red. And I told him I'm wearing the red. Right.
Mhm.
And then when they get there, he puts a green one on. And so, when you're listening, you're like, oh my God, it's horrible. But somebody told me that the cast did not know about wristbands before getting there. So I don't know if Joe somehow found out, but the rest of the cast apparently, or the people that they were with, did not know about the wristbands until they were there. So then how would that happen in the car? Then I checked and I looked on the LA Singles page. That's who does the events on Instagram. It's LA Singles. Scroll down to this event. And if you scroll down to June, they talk about the wristbands. But if you scroll down to August, which is where this event was and where the promo was for it, there is nothing about the wristbands. It just talks about production being there and all that. Nothing about the wristbands is
Interesting.
advertised. So I did ask and I said, hi, in the DMs. She was very, very sweet. Hi, were the wristbands on your stories? And she said, yes, we always put the wristbands on our stories. So Joe could have seen it there, but I
Okay.
did look, and Joe does not follow this account. And I am pointing in the air right now like I'm announcing something. So I don't know. Did Joe know? Did Joe not know? Is this a fun story? Kristen also thought that Joe made up the turtle story about the ninja
I
turtle
know, I
falling from
thought
the
about
rain.
that too. Only when you said, like, is she, like, fabricating stuff? I was like the first thing I thought about was, like, her walking that turtle.
Yeah. In a way, I'm like, God, I want to, if she is honest and all that, I want to protect her. But there's too many people who say she's not honest. And you know what? Kristen, I mean,
Mhm.
Kristen sees shit. And
Yeah.
I don't find, maybe I'm going to eat my words again and somebody's going to be like, do you remember this? But I don't find Kristen to be a liar. Okay, wait, maybe aside from the Jax thing, there was the Jax thing, which was huge. But typically, she's just an instigator
Yep,
and a
agreed.
pusher of information and a stirrer.
Yep.
But I don't find her to be a liar. She didn't lie about Miami Girl.
No, I definitely do. I
Um,
think that she absolutely is an instigator, and I do think that she has good intention because I think that she's just like, "This should be out there, like, this is important information. It was spoken
right.
about." And maybe she gets bothered when people aren't truthful about things,
Yeah,
but also, like, I kind of wanna understand their falling out or their dynamic between, like, Kristen and Joe.
right. Me too. Yeah. Again, I think she's protecting her and I think she's not sharing too much.
Yep.
But it seemed like from what we've heard, it kind of just seemed like she just stopped talking to her when she started hooking up with Schwartz, which weird. Weird. She just want to be on TV and is just playing this innocent act. I don't know. It's very similar to Raquel Rachel
Yep.
to me,
Same. That's exactly what I
right?
was about to say. Like, they align for me in so many similar ways that I'm just like, it does make sense that they are friends because I feel like
Yeah.
they actually see each other, but they see each other in a way that other people do not see them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Maybe
And you'll
because
hear
they
like,
make like excuses for the stuff that they're doing. Not excuses, but they kind of like accept that the way that they've acted is okay and have forgiven
yeah.
themselves for things. And yeah,
And Rachel likes to talk about how she's forgiven herself. Yeah. And you'll hear like in the Vanderpump recap, and I'm sure you felt the same way. We'll talk about when we talk next week, me and you. But I felt so much for Joe when she was talking about loving Schwartz. Do I think she loved him? Yeah. And I feel so much for her with the way she was talking about that. But I just don't know how healthy of a place she comes into a relationship.
yeah, I do personally think that she does still have feelings for him. Um, I don't know how you feel about like the little pet names and stuff. Her calling Schwartz like T-Money and stuff like that. Even like after they're not together anymore, he has an active new girlfriend. I
Well,
still,
that's the thing. Doesn't it feel inappropriate?
for me, it does. For me, it does. So I think, and I mean, I'm just, again, I do think she still has feelings for him. I think that for her, he was like the love of her life. And I don't think it was the same for him.
Yeah. And the way that she doesn't hold her boundaries even if they're broken up
That's what I mean.
shows
Yeah.
shows that the boundaries while they were like in their situationship were probably really skewed.
Yep.
And he has to be clear here. He's very into Sophia. He just did a whole interview
Yes.
and was gushing about her,
Mhm.
obsessed with her, right? Like loves the I don't want to say loves because to me I'm still like he only loves Katie,
Yeah.
but he really likes Sophia. And it's cute the way he talks to her. I wish she wasn't so much younger than him. It's still like really, really strange to me. But
I don't know what's going on with all the major age gap relationships. But yeah.
I don't know. Part of me is like in his way of like how he never set up his apartment because he didn't want to stay there forever. Part of me is like, well, if I date a much younger girl, it's not forever. And I'm having fun and I'm feeling great, but it's not forever.
I could see that. And I could see that making him more comfortable to want to date.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. What was my point before that? Okay, so if the boundaries are iffy there, they're gonna be iffy before. And he has a girlfriend. He's with his girl. He was just with it. Now he's at Coachella with everybody, but he was just with his girlfriend in Hawaii, which by the way, Tom Sandoval is not at Coachella because he's no longer part of the group. So Ariana's there with Daniel, Scheana's there with Lala and Jenna, but Sandoval is not there smooching with Rachel or Ariana or anyone.
Also, I was thinking about that. Like, if I were him, I wouldn't want to go to Coachella after everything that like happened, if that makes sense. So I'm curious if like that's why he didn't go. Because why didn't he just go with his own friends?
I mean, it seems like he doesn't have a group right now.
I just mean like why didn't like him, Schwartz, and Kyle Chan go?
I don't know why he didn't go with Schwartz. And I will tell you guys this. Did you hear that there's like, I think Jack said it on something. Jack said that there's like a rift between Schwartz and Sandoval right now. And it wasn't sure, people weren't sure if that was true or not. But I think it's probably restaurant related because they have a lot of issues with their restaurant still and like all the dealings with that. And so maybe if he's having trouble with Schwartz right now, that would make sense of why
Why they didn't go to
they're not, or maybe his new girlfriend's not as into that. I don't know. What's he gonna do about that if she doesn't like having fun? She doesn't like hang gliding. She doesn't like going to Coachella. He loves that shit. So
the hang gliding stuff.
I bet you Scheana didn't want Sandoval there. Brock said something too, actually. Sorry, there was something. Brock also said this week that he's still trying to figure things out with Sandoval. They're not like really in a good place right now. So it's not like Scheana and Brock are hanging out with him. If Schwartz isn't hanging out with him, who's going to be hanging out with him at Coachella doing his mushrooms?
Right. Besides Kyle, I guess. Yeah.
And Kyle does his show in Hawaii. So Kyle is in Hawaii.
So then, yeah, there's no more options. Yeah.
And I've never seen Kyle at Coachella. So I don't think Kyle is at Coachella.
And that might
So,
not
yeah,
be
no.
like his thing. I did one of our like mutual friends online, she calls it Couchella. So you could just watch from home on the couch. And I was like, I like that idea. You could just live stream it.
Oh, I love that. No sweaty bodies all around you, but you still get to watch, no doubt. Sounds perfect.
I was like, maybe you and Hubs could watch it later, you know?
Yeah. Well, me and Hubs last night watched like 10 episodes of Hot Ones. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Where the guy interviews them when they're eating hot wings.
Oh,
and
yes,
they're like-
actually, I have. Yes, I have. It's
Oh
on
my
YouTube,
God.
right?
Yes, it's
Yes.
so entertaining.
Yes, it is. That was the one that the only reason I know about that is because in Sync, when they teased us with their little thing that they teased us with, that they're not really, the group is not back together, but they went on Hot Ones.
Oh, no, they are going to do a tour in sync.
Wait, they are doing a tour? I thought that they were.
Yes. No, they're going to do a tour. They're going to do yes.
I did not know that.
Okay, on TikTok they announced that they're back together. So I don't know if they're doing it. It's the tour.
Okay, I didn't know that they were doing it like I didn't know that it was actually happening. But yeah,
Oh, let's make sure it's.
I saw their hot ones and it was funny.
Oh, was that a good one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we watched like Conan and Shaq were hysterical.
Shaq is
We
so
watched
funny. Did you know Shaq's a doctor? Like he has his doctorate degree?
Yeah, yes, he called himself doctor on there for a minute. Yeah. I love
I
that.
did like a little bit of reading about Shaq one time and I was like, wait, you're so cool.
Oh my god, he was so interesting. He's very cool. He's a very interesting man, and he was so entertaining. You have to watch it. Okay. All right, anyway. Okay, so another thing that was said during that Joe and Rachel podcast, Rach and Joe, faux E. Now, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know this, Joe spoiled this for people who don't want to know. So, big spoiler alert. She says that Katie apologized to her at the reunion and that the whole cast kind of had like this aha moment of, wow, like look at what Schwartz was doing to you. Like now that they saw the whole season, they realized it and blah, blah, blah. And they apologized to her. And Katie apologized for saying that thing. And they realized that she wasn't lying. Here's what's weird. This reunion was taped several weeks ago. Podcast just came out. Thing was just posted on the stories about Katie and Dana. If Katie apologized to you and you thought it was this great moment, you still reposted and circled that Katie's the worst dress?
Thank you.
What? You think Rachel just like did the whole thing and then like submitted it and then said, and then was like, Joe, let's just do it. And then just grabbed her phone and clicked, flip, and it wasn't even Joe? I don't know.
That makes
I'm not
no
even
sense
sure.
to me. That's what I was thinking. How are you going to say that she apologized to you? Because the reunion was filmed prior to her posting that, correct?
The reunion was filmed prior, yes.
So,
Weeks prior.
right. So, again, in the thought process, at what point did not one thought cross Joe's mind of, I just had a sentimental moment with Katie. She apologized. Let me maybe not repost this. And also,
Yeah.
this is what makes me feel like Rachel has such a vengeance against Katie.
Yeah, what is her deal with Katie?
It's just so bizarre to me.
You need to, is there any explanation that you could think of? Because I can't think of anything.
I have thought so many different times, was she maybe jealous of, the success that Katie had with like opening up her own sandwich shop or something? I don't know. Like that wouldn't even make sense. That's not even Rachel's like niche, And it's not like
Okay.
Katie's like a pageant person or anything. Like there's no competition in her world per se. What is up with it?
So I do think kind of like Charlie, who used to be on Vanderpump Rules, said on Nick Vile's podcast, I do think it definitely could be the whole pageant thing, like her just always looking at other women as competition, because Charlie used to do pageants with her also. And she said that whole world is like that. Like you're just taught, everything is like a competition. I do think that's possible. But also, one of my followers has a theory, and it might have been kind of like what you were saying before, that Joe has been like in love with Schwartz for a long time. She wonders if they had a relationship or anything going when he was with Katie. I hope not. I don't think so. I feel like that would be.
That's interesting. That's an interesting theory. So what, Rachel feels that really Joe and Schwartz should be together, so that's why she kind of
Yes.
knocking down Kate. Okay.
Yes, and just the way how Joe felt like Rachel and Sandoval should be together, because Joe loves Sandoval. Then Joe is going on talking about Sandoval on Rachel's podcast and how much she likes him. And
Okay, thank you. Was that not weird when you heard that?
yo, we need to talk about that.
You have to, because I was like, I felt like I got slapped across the face. I was like, what? She calls him like Sandy? Like that's like a nickname. That's like a personalized nickname. I know that's the name of the bar and everything, but it's like, no, like she didn't call him Tom. She didn't call him Sandoval. She called him Sandy. And also, isn't that weird? Your friend, in quotes, is suing him, his ex-partner. Wouldn't, like, I don't know, if that was me, I would ask my friends, like, hey, at this time, I'm in a legal battle with these people. Could you, because of legal reasons, I don't really want, like, my info shared and vice versa. Could you maybe take a step back, from, like,
Right.
I don't know. Yeah.
The other funny thing is Joe is talking about Hotel Ziggy, and she says like how Allie was fine and she didn't have any problem with Allie. And then you hear Rachel in the background. She's like, and then Joe continues saying something, and she goes, I think Allie was a little bit catty with the way she was like talking to the girls about you. Really? You're
Okay.
bringing up.
This is what I mean, though. Like, That's so
She is
frustrating. It's so frustrating because no, absolutely not. You are pushing a false narrative. Allie has been nothing but kind to Joe.
She is, and she is a vengeance against Sally because she was with James.
Of
Like,
course,
let's be
right.
real, Rachel. You have extreme jealousy issues, Rachel. You have extreme jealousy issues. I'm sorry, that's what the girl has. She wants
Period.
what other people have, and if she doesn't have what they have, she's gonna find a way to get it or to break them down. Yep,
No,
right.
like literally factual because I've never like thought that per se. But what you just said, absolutely. Her and Tom Sandoval, her and Tom Schwartz, her and James, yes.
She's really talking about Allie after Allie is the only one really being nice because Lala's being nice for the cameras, in my opinion.
Yes,
Allie is
agreed.
being nice.
Because
I mean,
that's
I
her
think Allie's
nature.
not really sure about Joe, but yeah, because of it's her nature and she truly wants to like throw a bone to her, right? So, Rachel, Joe, what I want to, if I could get Joe, if Joe is innocent, what I want to say to her is be careful of Rachel, Joe. Be careful of Rachel.
Yeah,
That's what, if you're innocent, be careful of her
because
because she
what's
might
gonna
be steering you
happen?
down a bad path.
Yeah, and what happens if Joe becomes happy and has something? Rachel could end up doing the exact same thing to her.
Did Rachel encourage Joe with Schwartz?
I
Probably.
I definitely could see that. I think that she
What,
probably motivated that a little bit.
what if Rachel was like, Joe, Schwartz has another room. Maybe you should stay with him.
I see it even in the sense of like, oh, well, I'm dating Sandoval. You and Schwartz could kind of get together. You've always had a crush on him.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So now let's get to the Sandoval part. Cause okay. So then Rachel asks about like different cast members and she's like, do you still talk to Tom Sandoval? And Joe's like, we text here and there. Like, I don't have anything against him besides like and then Rachel goes, yeah, the video. And then Joe's like, yeah. And Rachel's like, yeah. Okay, so that's the only thing you have against him is a video. But you have all this shit against Ariana. But Rachel, you have a lawsuit against Tom Sandoval for every single other thing. And your best friend, quote unquote, best friend right now, is saying that's the only thing she has against Sandoval. What is that?
That's weird. That's weird behavior. That's confusing behavior. I'm confused.
What is that? What kind of Delulu land are we living in?
But
If this were
also,
my friend,
yeah, go off. Sorry. That literally, I was just about to say that. Go off.
no, like if this were my friend and this had happened to my friend was suing somebody because of things like this, like she's claiming Sandoval did to her, I would not be talking to that man and I would not be acting so nonchalant about it. And no, what were you gonna say?
Like literally though, I am so confused. Wouldn't that be enough for you to maybe step away from that friendship because your friend is in an active lawsuit for something really hideous? And she's like, oh, I still really care about him. What?
Wild.
It was just blazed over, I feel like. Like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, except, the video. What do you mean the video? And what about the lawsuit? Like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. All right. Let's stop with them because we can go on for an hour about them.
literally. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ready?
Ready.
Talking about Coachella and Scheana being out, Jax had a video of him saying Scheana is always out partying and leaves her child to be raised by her mother. So calling Scheana basically a bad mother, out partying and leaving her. Are you kidding me? So Scheana responds and has her podcast and says she doesn't know if Jax was eating a lot of pasta that night or what. Now, listeners, I've learned from my pages that some people don't know what pasta is code word for. On the show, they were actually eating pasta. There was this whole thing where James says, it's not about the pasta. It's not about the pasta. That it was code word for snowflake white powder. We could probably say it on here, but I
I
don't
was
know.
going to say, I think that we can. I think that we can. Yeah.
Okay. What do you call it? Just Coke?
Why are you asking me like I do it?
I know you don't do it. I know you don't do
You're
it.
like, what do the kids call it nowadays?
Well, because you always laugh when I
Oh, I
say
know.
the wrong names for
I mean, I've also heard it
joints.
called like going skiing.
Oh, okay.
Like, no
So
snowflakes.
it's like this, but it's this known thing in Vanderpump world that pasta became like code word. People thought it was that they meant, I'm just gonna say white powder. All right,
That's fine.
fine. Thought that it meant Coke and cocaine, not Coca-Cola. But the Vanderpump cast has said no, it was actually pasta. However, now Scheana was like, I don't know if he was eating a lot of pasta that night or what. And Scheana talks about this a lot, and she's crying. It's really sad, talking about the guilt that she feels as a mom and having him, how horrible it was to have him say that. And Hannah Berner from Summer House
Love
was on
her.
there. She was really good. Along with another guest, Gibson John. She was like, Scheana, you're a great mother. And I think it's obvious to everyone that Scheana is a great mother. So I cannot believe that Jax was saying this. And she was really upset. And then at the end, she gave him a threat. And
She
she
did.
says,
You also took that as a threat. Okay.
oh, it was a fucking threat.
Okay, because when we listened to a little snippet last night on live, and I was like, ooh, that was a little threat.
That was a big threat.
Yeah.
And you know
I
she
was kind
will.
of
You
shocked.
know.
I know. I was shocked that she said that, though.
And listen, don't you mess with a mother, because if you're gonna attack somebody's motherhood,
Wait, I actually wanted to
you
ask you, like, because I'm not a parent, so I don't really have like a big space to speak about. I have my own opinion about
Mhm,
that, but like, as a
mhm.
mom, how did you feel about, first off, a man commenting on her parenting style, just in general,
Oh,
and then
oh my
also
gosh.
coming at her and her parenting?
Oh my gosh. So no disrespect to men in saying this, and my husband would agree with this here, so I am going to say it.
Yeah, no, I just meant in
You
the sense of like father versus mother
no,
role. You know what I mean? Like,
as a man, don't you ever, ever, and especially a man who, well, he has a child, but when men who don't have children comment on somebody's motherhood and things like that, oh, you know nothing about being a parent. But then a man who has a child and should know the difficulties of raising a child, and how a mom who's a working mom has job obligations and who should have a life on her own as well, okay, for her own mental health and for the health of her family. And Jax has a freaking restaurant, and Brittany is upset at him for being out at the time, all the time, and only being at the restaurant or dealing with the restaurant. And he's calling her out for being out all the time. No, no, sir. Not
yeah,
okay.
like take several seats. You're again, Jax is jaxing. That's a big contradiction. You're literally, as you're saying it, you're at the bar.
At the bar. At
At
the
your
bar,
own bar.
watching a TV show about problems in your marriage.
Yep.
And then you're calling her out.
I
Wow.
just feel like he's deflection king.
Wow, Bethany. Wow. She so she says her actual threat is, I don't know why he wants to keep saying lies about me, but if he wants to keep doing this, I will have no problem telling the truth about him. I think she says, like, and I'll just say that at the
Yep.
end.
And I'll just leave it
So
at that. Yep.
she does not, you don't, guys out there, women, whoever, you don't want to mess with a mother. You
Yeah.
attack a woman as a mother, especially a mother who is a mother who cares and loves so deeply and tries her best, you will not be ending up in a good place. And she will call you out, especially Scheana, who has a little tendency to go act revengeful.
Yes, I was gonna say sometimes I do think she acts with spite.
Yes.
And also, like, people can come at Scheana for being a people pleaser if they want. They can come at her for whatever. Again, this is somebody who does not have a child. You never come after. Even if I had a kid, I'm still not coming after. I don't think it's fair or right, because
Yeah.
you could be a mom and I could be a mom, and your experience and my experience could be two separate motherhood experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Completely.
yeah, it bothered
I
me
don't
a lot.
I don't ever judge, like, when my daughter was little, like, we didn't watch TV for her first 18 months because that was recommended and I wanted to stick to that. So we didn't. I would have the TV on for a teeny bit each day. I think it was like during, what was the show? Not Regis. Oh my God. It was Kelly and Brian, like whatever morning show would be on, it'll be like 20 minutes. And I didn't have the TV on for the rest of the day. And I tried to do everything perfectly and by the book. And then when she got to a certain age, I was like, okay, after 18 months, it's fine. But then comes a certain point where I'm like, I'm trying to constantly be perfect. What is the fucking point? And
Right.
I'm seeing my friends, and personally for me, I don't resort to the iPad when I don't have to, but I am not judging anybody doing it, because I know that if you're giving your kid an iPad or if you're putting a TV show on or whatever it is, you're doing what you think is right for your family for that time.
Yep.
And we all have different experiences and we all have to do what we know is best for us because only we know inside that household what's really best for us. And so I don't know. I just can't believe, and she even said that she's like, "Don't throw stones in glass houses." Like, are you kidding me? You should not be doing this, and you shouldn't be judging parenting. And speaking of that, though, there is Jax and Brittany on their show with their sweet, adorable son Cruz, who they're expressing to everybody, and they're showing that he has speech issues. There's been a lot of talk about it. And I was worried about this happening. It actually didn't get as bad as I thought it would on Instagram. So that was great. But again, people are judging parenting, and it's like, unless you're there and they're not putting like those aspects on a TV show, just please, there's one area, just don't judge children or don't judge parents and don't diagnose people. I get it. We can see things and say, oh, I know what this looks like. I know what this could be. But, we're not really there. So we don't truly know. We are not their doctors.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless
And
you're like a licensed professional, definitely don't talk about anybody's diagnosis. And I just feel a certain type of way about talking about like children and parents, like and
mhm,
parenting styles, I guess now too, because I've never really been so like offended, and I don't even have. I'm not even a parent, and I was offended, but just like my whole life, I've been like, yeah, you don't really talk about somebody's parents or somebody's kids as just like a
right.
staple, you know?
Yeah. I agree. Of course, there are exceptions to the rules, like parents who are literally selling stories of their children on social media, like another Bravo star, which I just cannot even believe that she's sharing stories of her child for clicks, old stories of her child in a hospital bed, acting as if it's new, and it's not, and it's just for money. But so okay, what did you want to say about the speech
Oh,
therapy and all
yes.
that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was just first off, I was so excited just to honestly hear speech therapy be thrown out. As a speech therapist, I feel like nobody ever knows like what my job really is. I always get like,
Oh,
"Oh, you help people with their R sound." And I'm like, that's one piece of a very big puzzle. So I was like really excited to hear like Brittany really positively advocating for speech therapy and just advocating for her son's needs at this time. They did mention he does have a speech delay. And
mhm.
my little snippet would be, my piece of advice to anyone going through it is like, try not, I know it's easier said than done. I'm not a parent. Try not to compare your child. I know it's so much easier said than done, but like instead
Yeah.
of comparing, like celebrate your child's unique abilities and their strengths in whatever way that is. And, celebrate that. That
Yeah.
is so, so helpful. And I know I feel like Jax is really going through it right now. I think that he might be experiencing it differently than Brittany. Did you also get that impression?
I did. I do. Yeah. I wonder if this has actually been contributing to him having his stuff a little bit.
Same here. I was like, I wonder if that maybe their, parenting approach with therapies and acceptance of certain things with their child has put like a wedge in between them.
Yeah. Jax, I agree with the comparing. I think it's different to have a threshold kind of like where this is like where typically kids are at so that because one thing though that is important, and let me know if you're comfortable with me saying this or not, but I'm a teacher. And something that I have noticed a huge difference with not just in teaching, but also my personal life is kids who have early intervention
Hmm.
and kids who get resources as early as possible, like speech therapy or other resources. It makes a huge difference, like the earlier you start. So once you do start noticing something, you can talk to a professional. You shouldn't be just comparing
Oh,
in
yeah.
your
Let me, like,
head, like you
clarify
said.
the whole comparison thing. So,
Yeah,
yes, absolutely, we wanna intervene as early as possible, hence why it's like early intervention. So, yes, we always wanna intervene as soon as possible. You, as a parent, can do your own research about, like, developmental norms in any way, but once you are aware of what your child's going through, at that point, try not to compare your child to another child.
right, right. I agree. Each child is so different. And what you would learn is comparing them does nothing but cause harm to you, I'm sure, as the parent who's constantly like worried about that, but also possibly inadvertently to the child from feeling whatever kind of pressure that you might be feeling or worries that you may be feeling. And what's most important, like we've said before, for a child is for them to just know that you have all the trust and support in them above anything else. And their timeline is never going to look as this exactly the same as any other child's timeline. Like a child's like a snowflake. Each one is unique and that's the way it should be. And that's what makes them so beautiful. And I can promise you that there are kids who start out seeming to have difficulties with certain things that end up completely excelling in that area later in life, or they maybe don't excel in a certain area, but they are completely gifted in some other way. So I agree. And what you said, like celebrating the victories is so important, like celebrating all progress again, and big point that we're trying to drive home, because if you can do this, then you're succeeding. The most important thing is that your child knows that you are there to, one, support them, and two, love them, and three, believe in them.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. Just instilling that confidence and like I was saying, like celebrate their uniqueness. Like if your child, let's say, is not speaking, right, but is able to follow commands, even multi-step commands and things like celebrate that. Oh my gosh, that is
yeah.
so exciting. And that in itself, will instill that confidence and that confidence will make your child that much more motivated to do things.
Mhm.
I always feel like the
I
first
think
piece of my therapy is I need to make sure that that child knows that I believe in them. Once they know
yeah.
that, then the magic happens. Then we see the progress in whatever way. And progress could be literally a baby step, and we're still celebrating it. It's a big deal.
Yeah, mhm. I loved how Jax and Brittany were like, "Yeah," and I personally I loved it that they were encouraging him. I thought they were sweet with him, and I hope that no matter what differences they have, they're able to just, it seems like, come together for him.
Yeah, and I also just would like to give them kudos because I think they were extremely vulnerable by even sharing this with the world.
They were. Some people were like, "I don't like that they're sharing it," but you know what?
But I do feel
This
like it needs to be out there. Oh my gosh, like, instead of quieting it, I don't know, I just always, like, resort back to, like, autism, for example. Autism was so quieted for so long, like, if you had
Yeah,
autism or a disability, you know, you were kind of put into a room and it was like, "Here, just go there," and it's like, "No," like, there's so many abilities within disabilities?
right,
That's
yep.
why I'm like, I would like to see it actually advocated more. I would like for people to start discussing disorders more because guess what? There's a lot more people with disorders than not.
Mhm. Like, when Scheana even with the OCD, like, when I heard somebody bring up OCD on TV, I was like, "Ah!"
Right?
Like, finally,
Yes,
I've been
exactly.
waiting for like, nobody ever talks about it, and so you're saying to
You'll
speech
come to
therapy, and by the
find,
way,
right, like, you're not that alone. I guarantee if you talk to just anyone walking down the street, "Hey, do you know or do you have a loved one that struggled with not even just speech, OT, PT, whatever it is?" You know what I mean? They'll be like,
right,
"Oh, yeah,
mhm.
my cousin. Oh, yeah, my nephew," whatever it is, whatever the case. So,
For parents, it makes them feel less alone watching this and seeing what they're going through. Like, I love that parents who are going
I
through this
hope.
can see it.
Yeah, and I would imagine there are, a lot of parents that are watching this right now that are probably maybe even shedding a tear like, "Wow, it's not just my child?"
Yes. I wanna say too, and I would love for you to touch on this actually. So something that I've noticed with my personal life and from teaching is that it's really important to understand that kids who go to speech therapy aren't going to speech therapy for a certain thing. And there are many kids who actually don't have any neurological conditions at all, any disorders, but I don't know what you would call it if they're just not speaking at a certain time, who end up just speaking later. I'm not saying that's the case with Cruz, but I'm also not saying Cruz has something. And I want to say again, we know that some people are like, oh, well, I noticed this, I noticed that. I get it. I get it. We see things too. That doesn't mean that we have the right to diagnose
Yeah.
with anything and or not we're diagnosed over the internet with anything, especially as a child. And I have seen some kids who don't talk, I think 2, there's a lot of kids who don't talk until 2. I know my child was saying her first words
Well,
at
actually, new
8 months
research
old.
did just come out, by the way, about all of this.
Oh.
So
Oh.
since the pandemic, they have changed the developmental norms for, yeah, for speech and language. So,
What did they
and
change it to?
in the sense of like, by 2 years old, your child should have 200 words. Now they've changed it to your child should have about 50 words at 2 years old. That used to be your child should have about 25
Wow.
words at 1 years old.
Hmm. I think though before even, I'm just gonna be the little advocate of this one thing here. Even before the pandemic, I think that maybe the guidelines were a little bit too tight, just compared to what I was seeing.
I
Like, for
absolutely agree with that though, because
okay,
as a clinician that was giving therapy, I was always like, okay, half my caseload, more than half of my caseload, these students are maybe, you know, I'm going to say 15 months, and they had maybe 10 words. And that was typical for my caseload. And I was like, this is more typical. It's
yeah,
almost like the children that are 2 years old that have a full lexicon, that's almost not in a bad way, atypical in the sense of most children don't have
yeah,
that. And it's
yeah,
also, I mean, I could go on for hours and hours. It's also sad when parents don't know what their resources can be or where to even look. And, another thing I will say is for so long, pediatricians will say, like, oh, you could just wait it out, just wait it out. That's where, me and my practice, we have a different outlook on it in the sense of like, you should try to get intervened as early as possible. Research does show the earlier the intervention, the better the results. So,
yeah,
but yeah, newer
yeah.
research has come out about that. So it's just like there's also that to look at. And like you were saying earlier, obviously, yes, look up developmental norms, be in the know about that as a parent, but also,
Hmm.
once you know what's going on with your child, try not to keep comparing them to the typical norms. And I'm in quotes, and my fingers are in quoting the typical norms. There is no set typical, right? It's more or less, hey, this is what a collective group showed up and was able to do. So it's like you don't have to
Hmm.
be so harsh either on like yourself or your child. Try to give
Yeah,
yourselves compassion if you are going through something like that with your child.
yeah. And in saying that, like, it's funny because you're saying so the way a child does things and all that, right? It's nature, it's what's going on with them, but then it's also nurture. And when I'm
Yep.
saying that, it's not just that, it's like your environment. And being a teacher, I didn't realize that the things that I did naturally were things that like they I mean, I kind of knew, but I kind of just do these things naturally, I think, from being a teacher. So, like, one of the things, my daughter started her first words at 8 months. I wanted to say to parents, like, a little advice if you're raising kids right now. This is, and you're the speech pathologist, so you could speak on this more. But one thing I did is narrate every
Everything.
freaking thing.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm shaking. Yes, that's the best thing to do ever.
And my mom did do that with us, but I think I learned a lot from that from her in addition to, being a teacher and all that, but I think it was just natural also. I'm not sure, whatever. And I always enunciate this, so not enunciate, exaggerate the sound. So I'd be like,
Yes.
yum. And I would point to my lips, yum. Okay, I'm gonna get your food now. I've got the spoon. Here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready to eat? What's this?
Everything you're doing is
Blueberry?
like magic to a speech therapist's ear. Oh my gosh. I am so excited to hear that. You have no idea because a child needs a direct model because, okay, I do see a few like, and I don't even follow them, but I'll like scroll, right? Because I obviously on TikTok, some of my stuff is speech related. Some of it is more personal and like whatever the case. But I do see some videos where parents will have their kids and the whole video is silent. And I'm not assuming that they're silent the whole time with their child. But I would love to say, like, hey, when you're, dressing your child, when you're feeding your child, when you're going somewhere in the car, talk to your child. Hey, now we're going to be eating. Hey, now we're getting in the car. Seatbelt on. Everything you did was perfect. Pausing, to let them anticipate maybe what you're going to say next. But kids really just need a direct model, if that makes sense in that way. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm super
Yeah.
excited to hear that. That's if parents need any piece of advice for like how to help their child in any way that speech related, that is what I would say. If you can try to, and you don't have to do it all the time. Again, I'm not a parent. That could be so tiring. But if you could do that for like a half hour strewn throughout your day, absolutely that is beneficial to your child.
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't think of it as tiring just because it's the way I talk. Normally I'd be like, I have to go get the milk, but I'd be like, time to go get the milk. You want milky? This is milky. Yeah.
And then you're, like, repeating it, you're letting them know, even going to the fridge, "Okay, I'm gonna open the fr" you know what I mean? Things like that.
Open the
Yep.
fridge, yeah. We'll talk about this another time because it's really it is interesting. But and I wanna say too, when we were saying this, like, you were like, when we understand that we don't all know, it's like, this is the difference between judging versus just teaching. When we say that, like you're saying you saw the video, you notice the parents aren't doing it, it's not like judging, like, they're not good parents, they're not doing it right, blah, blah, blah. That's what some people do, and it's like, "You should be doing this, you should be doing that, they should." No, it's just, oh, something that's great to do with your kids is to
Right.
actually talk about it. It just helps with oral skills, and some people don't care as much about that, and that's fine, and some people aren't as naturally talkative. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand I don't stop talking, so it's easy for me to do that because I can't shut up,
But
but
also I've
other people.
learned, like, throughout conversations with parents, some parents just literally don't even know to do that, truly.
Exactly. No,
And I would
exactly.
never pass judgment. I mean, obviously, in my profession, I would never pass judgment, but just as my person, oh my god, I'm not a parent. Who am I to talk about? You know what I mean? Like, I could never.
Yeah.
So whenever I see those videos, I am absolutely in no way judging whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's so true what parents don't know, and, like, my best friends, like, I remember, because they had their kids a couple years later than me, but they'd be like, "Oh, I wouldn't have even known to do that." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's so funny," because to me, it's so natural because that's the world we're a part of, the teaching
Right.
world, and they're amazing parents. They just don't know those things, and that's where I can help with certain things, and then they help me with other things, and you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things that can be learned from
I mean,
resources
I remember,
around you.
like, one time I was working with a child and I brought bubbles because, for early intervention, bubbles are amazing. You could do a whole therapy session just with bubbles, right? And I was doing, like, pop, pop, and
Yes.
carryover work for the parent. I was like, "If you could, just, like, once this week, if you could do, the pop-up." She looked at me and she started crying. She's like, "I blow bubbles with him all the time, and we're quiet when we do it." And I never seen and
Oh,
I was like,
wow.
"No, stop it. Do not be hard on
Oh my
yourself at
god.
all. Like, if you don't know, you don't know. Now you
You
know, and now you
don't
can do it."
know.
Like,
Yes. Oh my
I
gosh,
do
I feel so
offer
bad that they would even feel that
I
way, but
know.
that
Yeah, same here, and I
yeah.
definitely always offer, to parents, like, "Please be kinder to yourself. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Please, like, show
Even
yourself grace," you know?
you're saying the pop thing, I wanna bring up too, like, even when you're reading books, like, there was this little Sesame Street book that used to be one of her favorites, and it would be like, "Bubbles, bubbles," hold on. "Bubbles, bubbles float on top, bubbles, bubbles, pop, pop, pop." And when we're reading, we'd do pop, 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 and, like, hold our finger like we're popping bubbles,
Yep.
like, little things like that help with speech
Oh, I was
also.
also gonna say, just even, like, moving your body around, like, the kines I never say this word right. Um,
Kinesthetic,
the
yes,
kinesthetic.
tactile kinesthetic learners, yes.
And that no, like, research literally shows that when you move your body while you're learning something, it actually helps you to retain that information.
Yeah, the more senses you use, the better you can absorb something because we all have different learning styles, but also we can it's just the more so there's that whole learning style thing, right? But then honestly, over time I've realized, wait, I use all the learning styles in my classroom. Just use them all. Just use them all.
Yeah, because
I
it's
mean,
really
taste you can't
beneficial.
use. It's really beneficial. Taste you can't use as much, but yeah. Okay. Anyway, we should just have a separate podcast.
I was just thinking, I was like, "Well, no, actually, we could definitely use taste for speech therapy too," but yeah, I'm gonna go off, so let's move
Yes,
on.
no, you can yeah, but
But
it
also,
is
I
interesting.
just felt like it was important maybe only because the Valley this week and everything, like, I'm sure there's parents out there that can relate, so I just wanted to, like, touch on it just for a little.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think it's interesting and relatable to a lot of people, but if people aren't interested in it, I'll add a little part to the beginning of the news section that lets them know they could skip this section if they're not interested. But we also want to say that this is not at all saying that Cruz or any child in particular can just benefit from doing this alone. We're just saying any child benefits from this. So it's just something as a parent, if you have a little one at home, a baby, or if you have a child you're working on speech with, it's just a great thing that you can do to help encourage the speech development. Last but not least, Miss Lala Kent.
Ooh, yeah.
um
Lala's
okay,
feeling herself. She's feeling herself.
she is feeling herself, so let's talk about this kind of quick. So you want to share what the video that you had, that what you watched with Lala?
Yeah. I always loved Lala, and I was always like, give me Lala, you know? Always really was a Lala stan. This season, I am confused by Lala. She's talking about being in her soft girl era, but I don't feel like she's being soft towards Ariana. I feel like she's being kind of harsh. She did an interview with Housewives Recap, and she's talking about the reunion a little bit. She's talking about people being fraudulent. And that confuses me a lot because I feel like Lala herself is hypocritical at points. You know, just again, I know that her ex and Sandoval are not the same, right? But hear me out. She did kind of have a whole sit down and was like, Schwartz, you cannot play pickleball with my ex anymore. But in the same breath, she's literally kikiing with Sandoval at his home. How is that okay in a friendship?
Yeah, no, it makes no sense. She's completely hypocritical. And I understand that, like you said, they're different, but they're not different to the person who's hurt by it. So it's not, so to
The
Ariana,
boundaries aren't different. That's what's not different. The boundaries
yeah.
that Lala asked for and the boundaries that Ariana, they're the same.
So she says on that recap, she says that at the reunion, people were looking at me like that never happened. And then the girl who's interviewing is like, yeah, roll the tape, Sandy. So Lala also says she felt peaceful after leaving the reunion. And even if it didn't hit what she wanted to say, that it was like what she needed to get out there. So I keep having people messaging me, asking me what I think happened at the reunion. Okay.
And she
so
also
it's funny.
she felt like grossed out too, which I'm curious about.
Okay. So I said I would do a new take on the reunion, like what happened there. So this is very easy now. I think for me, it was very easy to, maybe it's just easy because of the psychopath that I am, like in my head, like connecting the dots and all that. But Scheana also said more on her podcast about the reunion. Hold on a second. I think I wrote down something else. Okay. Scheana was also saying on her podcast that things have been weird with her and Ariana, but they're still friends and friendships go through ebb and flows and all of that. Lala is talking about people being fraudulent and not saying what they really mean, all this shit. And reminder here, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear things or possible things that will happen at the reunion. So if you listen to the last one, I said this, other ones in the past, we've talked about what we think. Here's what I think happened based off of everything. Lala was calling out Ariana for things that she considers to be not a good friend to people, probably most specifically Scheana. And she also, I think, is upset, like we talked about people not filming enough, because she's brought this up several times, most specifically on the more recent podcast with Heather McDonald's that I mentioned at the end of our last podcast. And I said I would talk about that a little bit more. I think that she is going to, like she says, she wanted somebody to kind of have to answer questions because Lala feels like she had to answer questions in the past. And now it's Ariana's time. And this reminded me so much of what Erica Jane said about Kyle Richards.
Good
She was
comparison.
like, and Lala loves Erica Jane, just like Erica Jane. And so Erica was coming after her friend Kyle, even though she's her friend. She wanted her to speak up and answer her questions and have to be, did she say grilled? She didn't say grilled with Andy. She said a more harsh word. I can't remember. Maybe she did say grilled by Andy Cohen. I just paused for a second and my husband actually looked it up and she said, as somebody who got eviscerated in past reunions, I want Kyle to get the same treatment. Fair is fair. I think that Lala wanted Ariana to have to speak for things the way that Lala was speaking for things and have to explain herself, have to explain why she was still living in that house and answer some questions. And Lala's making it seem like, I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I just want you to answer some questions. So she wants her to take the heat. I think she might have even used the words take the heat like she did. So I'm not positive about the heat part, so don't quote me on that one. However.
No, but the message is there though. Yeah, because that was pretty much, it was the same.
In saying that, I think, and like I said in the last one, I think my husband spoke with me about this. You can let me know if you didn't hear this or not, since you said you listened to the last one. And I kind of had a hard time listening. I have a hard time listening back to the whole podcast sometimes.
Well, yeah, because you're editing it for so many hours. Yeah.
But Scheana, I think, is not going to admit to the things that Lala is saying Scheana is feeling. So Lala is going to be saying you're not a good friend to Scheana. You do this, you do that, or whatever. And that Scheana is going to be like, oh, well, I do feel this way. I do love her. She
Right.
is a good friend to me. And Lala will be like, well, that's not what you said to me. And Scheana, like, I just picture her being like, what, Scheana?
Like,
What are you
like
talking
kind of
about?
calling her out, like, "Sheena, come on, like, stand up for yourself
Yeah,
and how
and
you
I and
feel."
she's saying other people are fraudulent. She's saying, like, people are just, like, basically lying, and so I think she's also gonna talk about Schwartz here because Schwartz is trying to get in okay again with Ariana, and I think Schwartz is not going to speak up for whatever Lala's trying to point out. I
Right.
think that I don't know if Katie is going to be involved at all. We know Katie's not going against Ariana, that's for sure, but I don't know if she sees Katie as, like, well, you're not saying that Ariana hasn't been a good friend to you too. I'm not sure. But all I know from everything she's saying is that she feels like everyone was not telling their truth. And that's it. Now, the footage, people keep asking me, what do I think is the fourth wall thing? I think the fourth wall thing, like I said before, is just them showing that finale. Oh, and by the way, somebody sent me, there was a thing today, the other day that came out saying that the fourth wall break, a blind that came out that said the fourth wall break is just showing them they watched the finale at the reunion. Did you hear this?
Yeah.
The account was blonde hair, black heart. And he posted this to Twitter. So I don't follow on Twitter, but somebody sent me his Twitter. That was him who said it, that they watched the finale at the reunion. And that does make sense, guys, because that's what they did recently on Traitors. They watched the finale, and then the cast was real hyped up because of the fact that they had just seen shit that happened on the finale, and they were more kind of aggravated for the reunion. It wasn't as pleasant. Remember with MJ?
Yeah.
Did you watch that?
Yes. I
So
finally finished.
I don't know if that's the case. I didn't hear that specific thing, but I think that's probably the case because what I heard, like I told you, that it would be shocking. So, what I think though that they're going to show specifically is that scene of Sandoval talking to everybody and that little clip that they showed us, like in that random commercial at the time that said, she talks shit about all you motherfuckers.
Yep.
That's what Sandoval says when he goes off, when Ariana leaves and he's pissed off and he wants to deliver that to everybody. She's talking shit about all you motherfuckers. And so I think that then they maybe talk about how they're upset with Ariana and maybe they listen to him and believe what he's saying, that she's been talking shit about all of them for who knows how long. Maybe he says that she's not really a real friend to them. Who knows? But that's what Lala calls out at the reunion. So I'm assuming if she's calling that out, that's what it's about. So I think she's going to see what they were saying that she didn't know they were saying before, what he was going to be spewing about them and all of that shit. Then she's going to be upset about that. Remember, also, her best friend Logan had posted on Twitter saying some of these people are not going to be seeing heaven right after the reunion. So they probably made her feel horrible, or whatever happened made her feel horrible for him to actually say that. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think that's the fourth wall break, is like the little pieces that they've already been giving us.
She also said, like, it's a reunion like never before. Like, Bravo's never done anything like this before.
Makes sense. Yeah. So that's what definitely makes the most sense.
So that adds up.
Yeah. But remember in the past when I said I think that they're going to show like that scene of Sandoval, that makes sense because Ariana wasn't there for that. So she didn't know what was being said. And I wonder what was being said. Now, here's a question for you. If Sandoval's going to tell them that Ariana's been talking shit about them for years, do you mean to tell me then you wouldn't be tied into that?
Thank you.
You think she was just talking shit? You were with her.
You were partnered with her. So come correct.
You always had the same stance. Oh, they always had the same stance. And the funny part is she kind of seemed to used to take Tom's stance on things all the time. So who was really complaining and who was the one agreeing?
Right.
Did she talk shit about them, or were you talking shit about them and she was like in agreement with you? That's my question.
Because here's the thing, in his reality, I could totally see that happening, but him saying that she was the one talking shit.
Yep. All right. Okay, so I am back with Hubs also, just because you were here, so you might as well do it with me.
It is pretty convenient. I'm close by.
Up to date news. This is now Monday night. We're adding this in super quickly because what you didn't hear yet is the news that I did with
M, where I gave what I thought was going to happen at the reunion based off of everything that's been going on and been said. I also talked about what I think the fourth wall break will be, whatever. But I do have an update for today because Katie and Scheana both did an interview together with Us Weekly. And they asked the question, they asked what's been going on, like with Lala and Katie and how everything's been weird. Scheana basically says everything about the reunion. Not everything, but she says a lot. And it's what we were saying we think is going to happen. She says that a quick shout out to, like I've said before, Vanderpump recaps on Instagram. So I'm looking at that right now. And Katie says, I found out about that through a post on Instagram. Yeah, I mean, Lala and I over a year ago went through some stuff and we were paired, I thought. And then this past season you see on the show, we kind of got into some spats. We are not seeing eye to eye in a lot of things. And I'm not entirely sure. I don't really know what to say about it. So the interviewer says, Scheana, what was your reaction to that? Let me just make this clear. This interviewer watches the show. She really tries to get to the questions, okay?
Yeah.
And Scheana says, so she knows they're going to have different answers, right? Scheana says, I know how Lala has felt for a while now. A big thing at the reunion was Lala just kind of wanting everyone to tell the truth. Same thing. And the things that Katie and I have both vented to her about, whether it be about Ariana, specifically the sandwich shop, the show, or whatever that may be. She really just wanted us to say what we've said to her to everyone else. And I don't think she felt like everyone did that. Now, Katie's face is visibly like uncomfortable here. Scheana's not supposed to be saying all this. You're not supposed to be saying all this. Like, you signed an NDA. This is way, I'm shocked that she said all this. I think Scheana ends up saying these things to take the heat off because she's just like, she knows the heat that Lala is getting at this point. She doesn't want her to get the heat. And instead of doing what she's supposed to do, she tries to just take the heat off and says things that she shouldn't say.
Yeah.
And Christina then asks, are you and Lala still in a good place then, Scheana? And Scheana says, yeah, we're together all the time. So this part was kind of annoying. We're together all the time. Our kids are together all the time. I can walk to her house. I just saw her yesterday. Yeah, I definitely know that's where her head is at. This is a tough group to navigate when something so big like this shakes it up. But I do absolutely understand where she's coming from. It's kind of just like annoying because she's like, okay, so now Katie's not talking to Lala, but Scheana is talking to Lala. But here's my thing. Lala, why are you making Katie and even more Katie than Scheana? Katie say things that she has possibly said to you in privacy. You're making her air it out to Ariana at a reunion. You're making her air that shit out. Why would you put her in that position?
It's not a friend.
That's not a friend. Exactly. That's not a fucking friend.
No, Katie doesn't need Lala.
And you know what? What does Katie even say? Like, maybe she was, who knows? Maybe she didn't say anything, or maybe she was just like feeling like Katie's been upset about the sandwich shop because Ariana has so many things to do that she's not able to devote as much time to it. Maybe Katie really was saying, I feel like Ariana's not doing this, not doing that, or just venting about Ariana. But then for Lala to bring it up, you're harming Katie and you're harming Ariana to do what? What benefit are you getting? That makes you look better? That makes you feel better? That's making Sandoval feel better, look better? What the fuck is the point?
Is it to get a moment?
It's a moment? Probably. You're probably right. There's probably is.
She's giving them Lala at the reunion.
Give them Lala
right?
again. Mm-hmm. She also says she doesn't point any fingers at this reunion. She's like working on it. I think she said that on her podcast today.
Yeah, I mean, she shouldn't have brought up whatever it was. You can say things to your friend about other friends in a way that you're not talking trash about them. You're just venting,
I do get, like, if people are saying things, they should be bringing it up maybe, but have them do that. That's not your job.
Yeah.
And I get, like, if she's saying some people are not being completely honest about how they feel, that's going to be annoying to deal with and to listen to, and then people not actually tell the person. It's just not the way to do it.
Yeah.
And don't speak for somebody else. So anyway, had to add that update because I was like, holy shit. Then I was like, damn, I wish we had gotten the episode out before.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's it for the news. We are done with this episode. This was a long one.
That's what she said.
All right. Time to go. Thanks for being back.
So I'm going to tell you guys, we actually did record a shorter Valley recap, but it is just too long for this episode. So since we have that, it will be easy to actually put one out there later this week. You think I'm going to do that?
I think so.
Okay. So you are going to be here when M cannot be here.
As long as my calendar allows it. Yes, I am always here to fill in whenever M's not available. I love the talks, love the chats, love the gossip, tea, all that good stuff.
Do you?
I do.
I know you do.
I do.
It's
I think
fun.
people are surprised at how much I know through you.
What do you mean by people?
All the millions of listeners.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe. Is that what it's called? Or follow? No, follow, subscribe, whatever platform you use, whatever you
Some say subscribe,
there.
some say follow.
rate, review the podcast, message us if you want. All right. Thanks. And we will talk to you later.
Later.